Ciommo. Councilor Essaibi-George. Councilor Flaherty. Councilor Jackson.
Here.
Councilor Lamatina.
Here.
Councilor McCarthy.
Here.
Councilor O'Malley.
Present.
Councilor Pressley. Councilor Wu.
Present.
And Councilor Zachem.
Here.
Madam President, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to ask all councilors and guests to please rise, and I will turn over the microphone to Councilor Tito Jackson. Councilor Jackson will introduce our faith leader for the day, and after the invocation is delivered, please remain standing, and Councilor Jackson will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilor Jackson.
Thank you, Madam President. Today, I introduce you. Actually, there's probably no one in here who doesn't know the incomparable and one of the faith leaders who has stood the tallest, literally as well as figuratively, in some of our city's most difficult times. She has been someone who has been in literally all of our living rooms, but also has stood the line, stood the course, and led in some of the most difficult times in our city's history. And I am very happy, as I do this for the last time, to be able to have one of the city's most amazing leaders, the pastor of the historic Roxbury Presbyterian Church, Reverend Liz Walker.
Let us pray. God of wisdom, justice, and peace, thank you for each spirit that makes up this body, whose passion and work sustains our communities and our nation. Thank you for this time together and all that has been achieved in thought and discourse, in dreams and plans in this chambers. Help us as we meet to remember that we are still members one of another and that we can never live to ourselves alone. We pray for all the communities we serve, for people working, those without work, for those who are well housed and those who are homeless, for those who are fulfilled, those who are frustrated, for those who are healthy and those who are in pain. We pray for those public servants for whom this is the ending, who now seek new beginnings. Give them strength and encouragement to continue boldly into their futures. Strengthen and encourage all of us to be so grounded in your love that we are more confident that we can make it through these uncertain times. Let us not lose the values that brought us here in the first place. Help us to remain eager to listen and trust, to reach out and give in order to restore, so that we will beat our swords into plowshares and our spears into pruning hooks, so that nation will not rise up against nation, and we will study war no more. Keep all our hearts open to your grace wherever it touches us. In the name of all that we hold holy, let the people of God together say, amen. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Councilor Jackson and Reverend Walker. Now I'd like to invite up Councilor Essaibi-George for a special presentation.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you all for being here today. Today is a very special meeting for all of us. For some of our colleagues, today marks the end of your career in public service, and you have left a powerful and lasting legacy. You have touched many lives, and you have made our city a better place for everyone. In that spirit, I want to take a moment to recognize a young man who is just beginning to learn that one person can make a difference. On August 10th, Ryan McWade was in Town Field in Dorchester, volunteering with the All Dorchester Sports League, or ADSL, when he saw a man lying motionless on the ground. He yelled for someone to call the police, ran over to the body, and for 10 minutes performed CPR on the man who was overdosing. Ryan's quick actions saved that man's life. Ryan is a senior at Boston College High School, and when his school community learned of his actions, they held a mass in his honor. In a story in the Dorchester Reporter, Ryan said, "I had never won an award like that before, but it was great to be recognized. In my case, it wasn't a school or sports-related thing. It was a human thing." Those words resonated with me. As elected officials, we work every day on human things. And we celebrate our victories, not in trophies, but in the lives we improve. I am proud of Ryan and grateful for his actions. I believe that every young person should be empowered to help in a crisis situation. I look forward to helping make that a reality this coming term. I would like to thank Anthony Caldarelli from my office, who brought Ryan's story to our attention. They're friends. And how wonderful is it when we get to recognize our friends? I'd like all of us to welcome and honor and recognize the great heroic work of Ryan McQuaid. Ryan? Ryan is also joined today by his mom and his high school guidance counselor. So I'm so excited to present on behalf of the Boston City Council to Ryan McQuaid an official resolution in recognition of your ability to act swiftly for the benefit of someone else and for your selfless and compassionate effort to save a life. Be it resolved that the Boston City Council hereby expresses its gratitude, congratulations, and best wishes, not just for the rest of your senior year, but for your life ahead. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you. Thank you. Can I thank you, right? You sure?
All right. Thank you to everybody, and I just wanted to help raise awareness to the opioid crisis in Massachusetts. It's a very big problem, and I'm just part of the puzzle to fix the problem, so thank you.
Just get tons of kids, so just you have to hold a smile for a long time. Now you have to go back to school?
You get the day off, right? Congratulations. I think the president can wave you. Congrats, well done.
Write a note.
Write a note? Thank you. No, thank you so much. Thank you for bringing them.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you very much, Councilor Essaibi-George and Ryan. Before we jump into our formal business, I want to recognize a few special folks who are with us today. We have District 1 Councilor-elect Lydia Edwards here. Thank you and welcome. Sitting right by her, former District Councilor Diane Modica. We have former State Senator Anthony Petroselli is here. State Representative Aaron Michaelwitz is here as well. Great. So, and I see here as well, we always want to recognize head of our city agencies and departments, but Henry Vitale, who is head of water and sewer, but also most recent Shattuck Award winner as well. Thank you for joining us. Let's start with approval of the minutes from last meeting. Are there any changes or amendments? Seeing and hearing none, the minutes stand approved. Madam Clerk, would you please read reports of public officers and others?
Docket number 1560, communication was received from Keegan Whirlin LLP regarding N-Star Electric Company, DBA Eversource Energy, EFSB 14-4 DPU 14-153/14-154 of the final decision issued by the Energy Facilities Siting Board dated December 1st, 2017.
Docket 1560 will be placed on file.
Docket number 1561, communication was received from the city clerk of the filing of the Boston Planning and Development Agency of the Ninth Amendment to the report and decision on the Landmark Center Chapter 121A project.
Docket 1561 will be placed on file as well. Before we proceed with reports of committees, another former city councilor has walked in. Thank you, John Nucci, for joining us today, too. Reports of committees, Madam Clerk.
Docket number 1433, the Special Committee on Community Preservation Act, to which was referred on November 15, 2017, docket number 1433, ordered that the City Council Special Committee on the Community Preservation Act hold interviews of finalists for appointments to the Community Preservation Committee, submits a report recommending the order ought to pass.
Chair recognizes the Chair of the Special Committee on the Community Preservation Act, Councilor Flaherty.
Thank you, Madam President. Pursuant to Chapter 4 of the Ordinance of 2017, an ordinance that creates the Community Preservation Committee, the committee is required to nominate 4 persons for consideration by the full council for appointment to the CPC. And after a lengthy, in-depth, and transparent process for the interviews, the committee held a hearing on December the 5th, 2017, with the 4 individuals who the committee seeks to appoint to the CPC. So as the Chair of the Special Committee on the Community Preservation Act, to which the following is referred, docket 1433, order that the City Council Special Committee on Community Preservation Act hold interviews for the finalists for appointment for the CPC pursuant to Chapter 4 of the Ordinance of 2017, an ordinance creating Community Preservation Committee. The City's Council Special Committee on Community Preservation is now required to nominate 4 persons for consideration to the full council for vote and appointment approval. I submit the report recommending the following appointments be approved. Matthew Kiefer, 7 Serena Road, Jamaica Plain, 02130, for a term of 1 year. Kanan Thuragadavanam, 213 Webster Street, number 2 East Boston, Mass. 02128, for a term of 2 terms. Madeline Tenna of 1 Parkman Place, number 1, Dorchester, Mass. 02122, for a term of 3 years. And Ying Wong, 493 Hyde Park Ave, Rosendale, Mass. 02131, for a term of 3 years. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor Flaherty. Are there any others who wish to speak on the nominations? Then at this time, Councilor Flaherty moves that we accept the committee report and confirm these 4 individuals for the Community Preservation Committee. We will vote on them each individually, starting with Matthew Kiefer. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Matthew Kiefer is confirmed for a term of 1 year. Next, Kanan through Vengadam. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and Kanan through Vengadam has been confirmed for a term of 2 years. Madeline Tenya, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and Madeline Tenya has been confirmed for a term of 3 years. And finally, Ying Wong, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and Ying Wong has been confirmed for a term of 3 years. Thank you again, Councilor Flaherty, for all of your hard work on this.
Docket number 1487, the Committee on Government Operations, to which was referred on November 29, 2017, docket number 1487, an ordinance amending City of Boston Code, Chapter 17-19, regulating acoustic live entertainment, submits a report recommending the ordinance ought to pass.
Chair recognizes the Chair of the Committee on Government Operations, Councilor Flaherty.
Thank you, Madam President. This matter was sponsored by you, of course. The committee held a public hearing on Friday, December the 8th. Docket 1487 will amend the City of Boston Code Ordinances Chapter 17-19, which created a 1-year pilot program allowing businesses to hold acoustic performances without obtaining a live entertainment license or change of occupancy, provided that they were compliant with certain requirements, and also by striking subsection C, which was the sunset clause that provided for the program in the ordinance, and that is set to expire on December 31st. So At this time, as Chair of Committee on Government Operations, I recommend that docket 1487 pass, and also would like to turn it over if the lead sponsor or any of my colleagues wish to speak on the matter. But it received overwhelming support from the community. Small business and community members had experienced tremendous success during the live entertainment acoustic pilot program. And they felt that it brought more people to their local businesses, more people to the neighborhood streets. So as a result of which it enjoyed the enthusiastic support from them, and also Julie Burrows, Chief of Arts and Culture, as well as Abigail Fiore, Neighborhood Business Manager for the Office of Economic Development. So all testified in support. It's a great program, great initiative led by our council president, and moving that this matter pass. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Flaherty. All I will add is that I believe, as has been said before, this is one of the best examples of innovation and collaboration in city government, trying out a new idea, but also doing it with partnership with the mayor, the city council, and all of the departments that were involved in this, as well as all the main streets in every district across the city. So thank you so much for making sure that we got this hearing and that we were able to address this. Would anyone else like to speak on this particular ordinance? Hearing none, Councilor Flaherty moves for acceptance of the committee report and passage of docket 1487. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 1487 has been passed.
Docket number 1425, the Committee on Government Operations, to which was referred on November 15, 2017, docket number 1425. Message and order authorizing the acceptance of the provision of Section 3 of Chapter 64N of the General Laws, which allows a municipality that accepts that section to impose a local sales tax up to 3% upon the sale or transfer of marijuana or marijuana products by the recreational marijuana retailer, and setting the rate of the local sales tax on marijuana at the maximum amount allowed of 3% rate. Submits a report recommending the order ought to pass.
On docket 1425, Chair recognizes again the Chair of the Committee on Government Operations, Councilor Flaherty.
Thank you, Madam President. This matter was sponsored by Mayor Martin J. Walsh and referred to the committee back on November the 15th. Docket 1425 is an order authorizing the city to accept provisions of Section 3 of Chapter 64N of the Mass General Laws. The committee held a public hearing on Friday, December the 8th. The discussions of the topics included estimated revenue and its intended uses, as well as regulation and enforcement. The city will work with the relevant departments to decide on appropriate funding allocations, the decisions for the 3% rate, as well as opportunities to designate revenue to specific programs. Was explained, obviously, that whether it's a minimum or maximum available resource, that revenue received will be input into the general fund, along with the opportunity to set local host arrangements and agreements, as well as community mitigation fees. So please note, with respect to this matter, that as originally filed, it stated Section 13 of Chapter 5 of the Acts of 2017, recently amended Section 364N of the General Laws, but the correct chapter was 55. It was a typographical error that came over from the administration. So the final version of docket 1425 attached makes that technical change, correcting the typographical error, and reflects the correct chapter. So at this time, as Chair of Government Operations, I recommend that docket 1425, which authorizes the acceptance of provisions of Section 3 of Chapter 64N of the General Laws, which will then allow the City of Boston to impose a local sales tax of up to 3% upon the sale or transfer of marijuana or marijuana products by recreational marijuana retail, and that ought to pass. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor Flaherty. Councilor Pressley, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President and Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to go on the record, just pursuant with this body's early efforts, beginning with a hearing that I sponsored in the committee, which I vice chair, the Committee on Jobs, Wages, and Workforce Development. I'm pleased that we'll be pursuing the maximum allowed, and I just wanted to go on record in asking that we consider dedicating those dollars to programming for restorative justice, jail diversion, workforce development, industry-specific technical assistance, including support to ensure ownership and the success of MBEs, and mentoring services for economically disadvantaged persons in communities disproportionately impacted by high rates of arrest and incarceration. We have, in fact, successfully obtained that information. We thank the Boston Police Department for their partnership. So we'll be able to dedicate those funds. There's been a mapping. We know exactly what are the communities that have been disproportionately impacted, not anecdotally, with data. And so I ask that there be strong consideration that those revenues be dedicated in those categories. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Pressley. Councilor Jackson, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I, too, would like to go on record, just as Councilor Pressley noted, that we have an opportunity in the city of Boston and the state of Massachusetts to do this the right way. If this ends up where all of the dispensaries are owned by people from private equity and venture capital backgrounds, then we have failed. If it is a city that ends up like Denver, where most of the large facilities are actually now gobbling up the small facilities, then we will have failed. We have an opportunity to actually right the wrongs that, many of the wrongs that have occurred in the past, and take these resources and make sure that they have a several-fold bottom line. And so, yes, we are going for the maximum, and I think that's exactly what we should do. But the maximum is not only based on dollars, it's the sense that we use with those dollars to apply them in areas that are actually going to help the communities that have been harmed by the very harmful war on drugs, which has been really a war on poverty. So I look forward to voting for this, but I think we need to direct those funds. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Jackson. At this time, Councilor Flaherty moves for acceptance of the committee report and passage of docket 1425. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 1425 has been passed.
Docket number 1462, the Committee on Planning and Development, to which was referred on November 29th, 2017, docket number 1462. Message in order to declare surplus these city-owned, formerly Boston Redevelopment Authority-owned parcels of vacant land and transfer the care, custody, management, and control of said property to the Public Facilities Commission. The vacant parcels are located at 1 Akron Street in the Roxbury District, 11 Chipman Street in the Dorchester District, 52 Elmont Street in the Roxbury District, 24 Leston Street in the Mattapan District, 97 Marcellus Street in the Roxbury District, 93 to 95 Marcellus Street in the Roxbury District, 101 Marcellus Street in the Roxbury District, and 105 Marcellus Street in the Roxbury District, 109 Marcellus Street in the Roxbury District, and 113 Marcellus Street in the Roxbury District, 115 Marcellus Street in the Roxbury District, 30 Mildred Street in the Mattapan District, 85 Selden Street in the Dorchester District, 0 Tucker Street in the Dorchester District, 436 Warren Street in the Dorchester District, 26 West Cottage Street in the Dorchester District, and 30 Westville Street in the Dorchester District. Submits a report recommending the order ought to pass in a new draft.
Chair recognizes the Vice Chair of the Committee on Planning and Development, Councilor Flaherty.
Thank you, Madam President. This matter was sponsored by the mayor and referred to the committee back on November the 29th. Discussion at the hearing included the following information. 17 city-owned parcels formerly owned by the Boston Redevelopment Authority transferred to D&D, totaling 73,357 square feet. Currently assessed, the currently assessed value of these parcels is $750,000. An appraisal will be conducted for these parcels and considered according during the disposal in the development process. The intended development purposes will include mixed income, mixed-use development opportunities, home ownership opportunities, and parking. It should be noted, as the clerk had read, the administration highlighted the following location errors, and they were included in the original document, November 27th. 30 Mildred Street in the Mattapan District should read 30 Mildred Ave in the Mattapan District. 0 Tucker Street in the Dorchester District should read 0 Tucker Street in the Mattapan District. And 436 Warren Street in the Dorchester District should read 436 Warren Street in the Roxbury District. So at this time, as Vice Chair of the Committee on Planning and Development, I recommend that a roll call vote be taken with respect to docket 1462, message in order to declare surplus these city-owned formerly Boston Redevelopment parcels of vacant land and transfer them to the care, custody, and management and control of the Public Facilities Commission. And due to the aforementioned corrections, the location errors, I recommend that this ought to pass in a new draft. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor Flaherty. Any comments or questions? Then, Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll for docket 1462 in a new draft?
Thank you, Madam President. Councilor Baker?
Yes.
Councilor Baker, yes. Councilor Campbell? Yes. Councilor Campbell, yes. Councilor Ciommo? Yes. Councilor Ciommo, yes. Councilor Essaibi-George? Yes. Councilor Essaibi-George, yes. Councilor Flaherty? Yes. Councilor Flaherty, yes. Councilor Jackson? Yes. Councilor Jackson, yes. Councilor LaMattina? Yes. Councilor LaMattina, yes. Councilor McCarthy? Yes. Councilor McCarthy, yes. Councilor O'Malley? Yes. Councilor O'Malley, yes. Councilor Pressley? Yes. Councilor Pressley, yes. Councilor Wu?
Yes.
Councilor Wu, yes. And Councilor Zachem? Yes. Councilor Zachem, yes. Madam President, docket number 1462 has received a unanimous vote.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Docket 1462 has been passed unanimously in a new draft.
Docket number 1488, the Committee on Planning and Development, to which was referred on November 29th, 2017, docket number 1488, order for hearing regarding a medical marijuana dispensary at 50 Clapp Street, submits a report recommending the order ought to pass.
On docket 1488, again, Councilor Flaherty, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Just like to be noted for the record that since Salamantina and Tito Jackson put their papers in, I've been doing all the heavy lifting here.
Finally.
But on a serious note, docket 1488 was sponsored by our colleague, City Councilor Frank Baker, referred to the committee back on November the 29th. The Committee on Planning and Development held a public hearing December the 8th. Representatives from Natural Selections, who are seeking a letter of non-opposition from the Boston City Council, as indicated by Mass General laws, to open a medicinal marijuana dispensary at 50 Clapp Street in Dorchester, attended the hearing. The hearing's discussion included the building's location, the floor plan, the security plan, system features, patient ailments, as well as benefits to the community, background and experience of the company, as well as the management team who have significant experience in the medicinal marijuana dispensary business. Further, the petition stated on the record that the proposed site complies with the regulations set forth by the City of Boston and Commonwealth of Mass, including the half-mile buffer zone, known, I guess, in the industry as the Flaherty rule. Outreach conducted to the surrounding communities to address questions and concerns from area residents. So based on the information that we had gathered, as well as the discussion at the hearing, as the Vice Chair of the Committee on Planning and Development, I've set forth a petition with respect to Natural Selections that they obtain a letter of non-opposition from the City Council. And at this time, turn it over to the lead sponsor, my colleague, City Councilor Frank Baker, for any additional comments.
Thank you, Councilor Flaherty. Councilor Baker, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Madam President. Since this industry has started, it's a very aggressive industry, and I think as a City Council here, we've done a good job as far as shepherding in the industry. We had a delegation go out to Denver to actually look at the way the industry looks like, and so I've had probably 10 different operators come to me looking to operate within my district, and what was important to me was they needed to have experience. I wanted them to be local, and like Councilor Jackson said, I didn't want them to be a corporate player. It's an individual that owns. He's from down the South Shore, isn't necessarily Dorchester, but he's more local than most people. I felt comfortable with this application. They went through probably 6 months in the neighborhood, making relationships and letting people know who they are and what the industry may potentially look like. And they did get a favorable vote from the local civic group that's there. This industry is coming, and I would suggest to the district councils that don't have one yet, you should start figuring out who's going to come to your district, because there are going to be people coming to your district. I was comfortable with this one here, so I think we did a good job as far as coming up with somewhat of a process here now before it got out of control. But I just want to speak in favor of this so we can give this group the letter of non-opposition, which I think is a funny term, non-opposition. Talk about walking a fence. But yes. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor Baker. Would anyone else like to speak on this matter before we take a vote? At this time, Councilor Flaherty moves for passage of docket 1488. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 1488 has been passed, and this operator will be granted our standard letter of non-opposition. Before we proceed to the next section, I want to recognize we've been joined by another special guest, former Senate President and former City Councilor, Robert Travellini is here as well. Thank you for joining us. And on to matters recently heard for possible action.
Docket number 1062, order for hearing to consider the benefits of net zero carbon requirements and incentives for future construction in the city of Boston.
Councilor O'Malley, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President, and want to thank all of my colleagues. We had one of the most worthwhile hearings that I've conducted this year in my capacity as chair of the Committee on Environment and Sustainability. It's on the benefits of net zero carbon requirements for new building developments in the city of Boston. And despite the fact that it's an incredibly busy week, we had the Municipal Research Bureau luncheon immediately before. We still had 7 councilors attend, 2 councilors-elect attend, and I know every councilor who couldn't make it, him or herself, made sure that we had staff here as well. There's no action to take from this, but I just wanted to put a little in context and talk about why it was so worthwhile. We had 3 really, really strong panels. First, from the administration, we had John Delzell from the Boston Plan and Development Authority, as well as Carl Spector, the Commissioner of the Environment. Secondly, we had some great industry leaders, as well as the Director of Operations or Chief of Operations for Boston Medical Center, which is going to get a carbon net zero building by 2019. So 1 year from now, they'll be able to do it. And then the third was some really great advocates who've been working in this space. And as I have said countless times standing at this desk, there is an utter lack of not only leadership from Washington, outright hostility from this federal administration, this EPA. So it's really up to cities and towns and states to lead on issues in combating climate change. 50% plus of our greenhouse gas emissions come from our buildings. I'm delighted to hear a little bit about some of the good, positive programs that are happening at the city level, but there's certainly more that we can do. So while I'm not looking for any action obviously taken, it was a hearing order today. In the new council session starting in January, we'll be authoring another either a hearing order or some ordinance or some working session to keep this momentum going. And there were sort of 2 key takeaways from the hearing on Monday. One was that while we have a lot of great programs in place, probably 13 or 15 of them at the city level in terms of building, in terms of ways to address climate change, we really need sort of an ombudsman to help oversee it and answer the questions and help coordinate it. That's one piece. And the second piece is the urgency is really now, so we need to do more. We have ambitious goals to cut greenhouse gas emissions by 25% by 2020. We're not there yet, but there's more steps that we can take, and then by 100% by 2050, which is a laudable goal. But the more natural gas and other fossil fuel infrastructure that we invest in now, it's going to make that goal a lot more difficult. So let's help coordinate better. Let's have the council take a leadership role in oversight and coordination. And let's also stress the urgency of now, because as has been said, as has been noticed, you need only see what's been happening in this world. This is no longer going to affect our kids or our grandkids. This is happening now. The effects of climate change, particularly in coastal cities, is happening now. So thank you all for participating. No action to be taken now, but we will be revisiting this issue in the new council session. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor O'Malley. Docket number 1062 will be placed on file.
Docket number 1325, ordinance promoting equity in the City of Boston contracts.
Okay. Chair recognizes the chair of the committee, Michael Flaherty.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Docket 1325 was sponsored by our colleague, City Councilor President Wu and City Councilor Ayanna and Pressley, and referred to the Committee on Government Operations back on October the 18th. Docket 1325 proposes to amend CBC Chapter 4, Section 4, promoting minority and women-owned business enterprises in the City of Boston, to further promote equity in City of Boston contracts. The provisions include the creation of a supplier diversity program, directing any and all RFPs to city releases, as well as an evaluation process, requiring compilation of information regarding the number of contracts, as well as the dollar awards, the dollar amounts awarded. The ordinance is intended to put teeth in the city's existing diversity goals. The committee was referred to the administration's ongoing efforts and shared commitment regarding the promotion of equity and procurement. The committee also discussed the disparity study that's to commence in 2018, which hopefully will support the existing anecdotal evidence of disparity and provide legal footing for additional equity levers in the future. The new draft of Docket 1325 includes the following changes. add a definition for SLBE office as referenced throughout CBC 4-4 that includes the, quote, small and local business enterprise office as originally referenced in the chapter, the Office of Small Business Development or any other office similarly charged with implementing diversity initiatives. Also, another change, update threshold for professional services, increase that number from 25,000 to 50,000 to reflect amendments at the state procurement level. Also, another change, update and cite former design service law, General Law, Chapter 7, Section 38A.5-3080. Now General Law, Chapter 7C, Section 44-57, which is designer collection. Also, another change, update the definition of professional services as expanded by the administration to include all professional services, not just architecture and engineering. Another change, update the RFP policy to reflect stronger RFP language as presented by the administration. And finally, expand reporting requirements to include Boston resident-owned businesses as well as veteran-owned business enterprises. At this time, as the Chair of Government Operations, I recommend docket 1325 pass on a new draft, but would like to turn it over to the lead sponsors for further comments. Thank you, Mr. Vice President.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chair recognizes Councilor Wu.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President, and thank you so much, Chairman Flaherty, for making sure we had this hearing before the end of the year. I want to thank my co-sponsor in this, Councilor Pressley, for her work from dating back even before I was on the council on this very issue, and very proud that we have something concrete that we're presenting today. And I want to thank the administration who, through representatives Carolyn Crockett and Kevin Coyne, came to us at the hearing and said, not only do we agree with this docket and this ordinance, but we want to push the language further and make sure that we're doing more, increasing the thresholds. So just a quick summary, this ordinance is about aligning city spending with our vision of creating equity and opportunity. We learned at previous hearings that in 2016, for example, the city spent about $380 million on goods and $320 million on services. That's office supplies for City Hall and all city buildings, and then services like who cuts the grass on city parks or who plows the snow around our municipal buildings. That's $700 million a year that we could be directly investing back into neighborhood small businesses to, again, push for equity and opportunity and make sure that communities that have traditionally been left out of opportunity know what we're doing in City Hall and have the chance to be part of that growth. So there are three main parts of the ordinance. First is around outreach requirements, codifying what the city is already doing under Carolyn Crockett. We need to go after minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, tell them about the opportunities and have workshops training them to participate. The second piece is language, codifying requirements that every RFP that goes out from a city department must include not just language recognizing diversity and inclusion, but then affirmative requirements that the assessment and evaluation of who wins the bid include a rating of that diversity and inclusion piece. And finally, it adds tracking and reporting requirements. So in other words, this is about codifying our values, about changing our processes, and then measuring our progress. This is a great step to putting our money where our mouth is, and really excited that we'll get to take a vote on this today. So urge everyone to support. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilor Wu. Chair recognizes Councilor Pressley.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I want to thank my colleague, Council President Wu, for her partnership and leadership on this. Chairman Flaherty, for your stewardship in this endeavor. As Councilor Wu was alluding to, I held my first hearing in 2013 on the disparities in city contracts and access and opportunity for city contracts and procurement for minority businesses and neighborhood small businesses. Oftentimes it just felt like a big boulder sort of, pushing up a hill. And so it is an exciting day that we have a mandate top down and a demonstrated, a verbally expressed commitment and a more meaningful commitment to codify this through policy. Through conversations with community, existing and aspiring entrepreneurs and the Walsh administration, again, we have come to a place where we can finally codify our shared value Not only does everyone in this city deserve an equity and opportunity to benefit from the prosperity of the city, they should have an equity and opportunity to contribute to the prosperity of this great city. This ordinance codifies some of the marketing and advertising updates the Office of Small Business Development and the Purchasing Office are already undertaking. I'm so proud to be able to begin this process of standardizing language regarding MWBE participation for all city departments. You know, we often say that the best policies are data informed, and that the data bore out that we can certainly do better. And I am so delighted that the council will be leading in this way. This is going to go a long way for transparency and predictability for MWBE companies looking to share in the building, to share in the designing, to share in the cleaning, to share in the improving, and supplying our city and the neighborhoods they live and operate in. And this ordinance is flexible and nimble, as the Office of Economic Development is working on a critical disparity study to prove what we all know to be true anecdotally. This ordinance gets us started towards setting those goals for inclusion and creates what's really important, a reporting structure to measure how we are performing. Once this disparity study is complete, it will allow us to set newer and bolder goals for participation. Again, I want to thank my dear friend and colleague and our Council President, Michelle Wu. This is yet another example of your vigilance, your creativity, your partnership, which has yielded in incredible ways, and we'll speak more about that later. But I just want to thank you and reiterate our thanks to Carolyn Crockett and Kevin for your transparency, for your commitment, and for your partnership. Again, I'm just so excited the Council is playing a lead role in this, and I look forward to fully implementing this program and to reducing what we're all committed to doing, and that is to reducing the wealth disparities in the city of Boston. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Pressley. And I do want to make sure that Councilor Baker gets recognition and thanks, not just for leading the process up here today in his vice president role, but the very first hearing on this topic in general was stewarded under him in his capacity as chair of the Jobs, Wages, and Workforce Development Committee. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Frank. At this time, Councilor Flaherty moves for passage of docket 1325. All in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. Oh, thank you. Passage of docket 1325 in a new draft. All in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 1325 has been passed in a new draft.
Would you like me to read both matters?
Yes, please, Madam Clerk.
Together? Thank you. Docket number 1459, message in order to reduce the FY18 appropriation for the reserve for collective bargaining by $2,681,157 to provide funding for various departments for the FY18 increases contained within the collective bargaining agreement between the City of Boston and CENA. Docket number 1460, message in order approving a supplemental appropriation of $2,681,157 for various departments to cover the FY18 cost items contained within the collective bargaining agreement between the City of Boston and CENA.
On dockets 1459 and 1460, Chair recognizes the Chair of the Committee on Ways and Means, Councilor Ciommo.
Thank you, Madam President. The committee held its hearing yesterday. Justin Sterrett, the Budget Director, and Alexis Kachuk, the Director of Labor Relations, testified on behalf of the administration. During this round of bargaining, the parties reached two consecutive agreements, one from October 1st, 2016 through September 30th, 2017, and October 1, 2017 through September 30th, 2020, with an estimated cost of $15.9 million over the four-year period. Procedurally, docket 1459 moves funds from the collective bargaining reserve to provide funding to the salary employees of North America, CENA, to appropriate the funds. Mr. Sterrett explained that the FY18 appropriation of $2,681,157 will be funded from the collective bargaining reserve account. The balance stands at $20.9 million and should be sufficient to cover union bargaining agreements moving forward. The contract contains language changes that include improved wages, enhanced work benefits, and adds new work rules. It has a series of cost factors, including the following base increases similar to other bargaining agreements approved by the City Council, with the following wage pattern increases: 2% effective the first pay period of each October in 2016, 17, 18, and 19. It includes a new Step 10 at 2.5% increase over the existing Step 9, which will be created effective the first pay period in January of 2018. The contract included clarification of the so-called 20-year rule, which will only apply to employees promoted on or after their 20th year with the city and will continue to result in such employees moving to the top step. This change was implemented as the city analyzed certain positions that were deemed inconsistent in terms of salary scales and promotions. It stipulates that effective upon funding, BCYF employees' regularly scheduled work weekend shifts, as defined by the agreement, will receive a $40 weekend differential for each shift they actually work. It allows a weekly stipend of $30 for all senior members who possess a CDL license and that the license in the course of their employment. It allows for 4 hours leave of absence for cancer screening, consistent with the city's cancer screening policy. The contract grants that all employees covered by the agreement will be entitled to the city's paid parental leave benefit, subject to any changes to the exempt employee policy. Several positions the parties agreed upon will exempt and remove from the bargaining unit, and they will include the following positions: First Assistant Treasurer in the Treasurer Collecting Department, Director of State Relations and Intergovernmental Department, Deputy Director of the State Relations Intergovernmental Department, Employee Development Coordinator in the Human Resources Department. These positions, the city found, were misclassified as they were managerial or confidential or both. It was explained that once they became vacant, they will be exempt from the union. The SENA represents approximately 670 members who are mid-level managers throughout the city of Boston, particularly in the DeWitt Department, Boston Police Department, Boston Centers for Youth and Families, Parks and Rec, and Inspectional Services. As Chair of the Ways and Means Committee, I recommend passage of these dockets.
Thank you, Councilor Ciommo. At this time, Councilor Ciommo moves for passage of docket 1459 and 1460. We'll take them each individually. On 1459, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 1459 has been passed. And on docket 1460, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 1460 has been passed.
Docket number 1427, petition of Star Shuttle, Inc. for a license to operate motor vehicles to the carriage of passengers for hire over certain streets in Boston.
So before I recognize the committee chair, I just want to make a note. I know that everyone is sitting here because all these guests are fascinated about our grants that we're approving today. But we do need to finish a few more of these. So I'm going to turn it over to our committee chair to speak on his last docket as committee chair. We will have a special guest come and speak to address our two departing colleagues. We will finish the rest of our business and then open it up for statements and thank yous, welcomes, and goodbyes after that. So there'll be a little bit more waiting after this, but we're getting there. So on docket 1427, Chair recognizes the Chair of the Committee on Parks, Recreation, and Transportation, Councilor Lamattina.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson, Madam President. Yesterday, we did schedule a hearing on this docket, but the petitioner did not show up, so I ask that we deny this petition. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Lamattina. At this time, Councilor Lamattina moves for a no vote on docket 1427. Is there a committee report, Councilor Lamattina, filed with this? Okay, thank you. So for acceptance of the committee report, so a yes vote would be to reject the petition as recommended. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 1427 has been passed and the petition of Star Shuttle has been denied. Okay, Madam Clerk, if you could please read the next docket 1461.
Thank you, Madam President. Docket number 1461, message and order approving appropriation of $285,393 for the administrative and operating expenses of the City of Boston Community Preservation Committee, CPC, for fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2017 and ending June 30th, 2018, and further ordered that $17,894,608 be appropriated and reserved for the City of Boston's Community Preservation Fund annual revenues for further appropriations for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2017 and ending June 30th, 2018, upon the recommendation of the Community Preservation Committee.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. On docket 1461, Chair recognizes Chair of the Committee on Ways and Means, Councilor Ciommo.
Thank you, Madam President. We held this hearing yesterday as well. Christine Poff, the Community Preservation Director, and Justin Sterrett, the Budget Director, testified on behalf of the administration. Docket 1461 involves two budgetary orders. The first is to appropriate funds for the administrative costs of the Community Preservation Committee for this current fiscal year. The second is an appropriation to reserve FY18 revenues from the Community Preservation Fund for further appropriation based on project recommendations of the committee. The fund was created upon the adoption of the Community Preservation Act in November 2016 and is funded in part by the 1% property tax-based surcharge on residential and business property tax bills that took effect this past July 2017. Under Mass General Law, Chapter 44B, Section 6, administrative costs for the CPC may not exceed 5% of the fund's annual revenue. The FY18 administrative appropriation in this docket 1461 is for $285,393, which makes up approximately 1.6% of the $18 million estimated revenue for FY18. This will cover 3 full-time employees and various overhead. The rest of the $18 million will be appropriated and reserved. The Council will further appropriate these funds when it approves the CPC project recommendations. Therefore, as Chair of the Committee, I recommend passage.
Thank you, Councilor Ciommo. This time, Councilor Ciommo moves for passage of docket 1461. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 1461 has been passed. At this time, I'd like to invite up a special guest who would like to give a few remarks. We're going to take a brief recess. Council will be back in session. So at this time, I'd like to invite up a special guest to say a few remarks to our colleagues today. Please join me in welcoming the Mayor of Boston, Mayor Marty Walsh.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. And through you to the members, it is I remember this day for me 4 years ago in the Massachusetts House of Representatives. And this is to my two friends and colleagues. It was an emotional day. It was a bittersweet day because there's a lot of memories that you have working with your bodies. There's friendships that you thought you would never, ever make. There are parts of the city that you realize you never really knew. And serving this body here has been, I know for both of you, has been an incredible opportunity, not just as public servants, but as individuals who grew up in this great city. I just want to congratulate both of you. I want to thank you for your service to our city. I'll start with you, Sal. As I said last night, when I got elected mayor, Sal was one of the first people that I knew him. I knew who he was. I knew him from Anthony Petroselli, who's here with us today. I knew him from John Nucci. I knew him from this Trav. I knew him from East Boston, the delegation. And I knew that the type of person that he was. And from that day till today, anytime that I've called the councilor for an issue, anytime he's called me about his district or the state, or the city, I should say, he's always been there. I want to thank you for your service to East Boston. Your community loves you. I've had the chance to watch you as you're going away farewell tour over the last year. I thought Lenahan milked it. You know, not quite the same way as Lenahan. And I've watched people from different backgrounds. I've watched the old East Boston people, the way they treat you. I've watched the new East Boston people that moved in the last 10, 15, 20 years, the way they treat you. Every conversation was, where's Sal on it? Where's Sal? Where's Sal? Somebody who's not afraid to speak his voice. Also, somebody who's not afraid to stand up for his community. So, Mr. Councilor, on behalf of all of the people of Boston, we want to congratulate you, wish you best wishes in all that you do. And I know that this council was a small stint of your public service time. So on behalf of the city of Boston and all of the residents of the city of Boston, over the last 30 years, we say thank you for your service to the people of Boston. And the farewell tour still goes on until the 31st of December. To my friend and colleague, Councilor Jackson. I've known Councilor Jackson since back in the days when he worked for the governor in economic development. I actually met him on the campaign, met him in the office. He had a desk in the back room there. We had a chance to work on a whole bunch of different things over the last bunch of years. As you all know, the last 6 months and 8 months have been a little tense between us. We had a little bit of a race here. But that doesn't change friendships. That doesn't change relationships. That doesn't change the fact that when Tito Jackson got elected to this body, his job was to go out and represent the people of his district, and he did a great job of that. And the people of his district love him. And he's not afraid to say where he stands or where his position is on issues. And I want to thank you, Councilor, for your friendship. I want to thank you for your support, particularly in 2013. But I want to thank you for always caring about the city of Boston. Councilor Jackson, thank you for your story. You had the courage to talk about you, your upbringing here. You have the courage to talk about, not the courage, but then you talked about your family and your mom, who's so proud of you. You talked about your family, that your brothers and sisters that are around you. You talked about your dad with pride, how he'd fight for people. You were able to carry on that tradition, so I want to congratulate you. You're able to carry on that tradition first as a human being, an individual, before you were a public elected official, and then as an elected official, you kept that tradition going proud. So I want to thank you again as well on behalf of the people of the city of Boston. Thank you, Councilor Jackson, for your service in this body, and thank you from the people of Boston for the last 6 months to elevate the conversation about what we need to do as a city moving forward. Congratulations. So come on up here, Tito.
Thank you, Mayor. And again, well, let's just finish the grants but without any tears and emotions, and then we'll get to the rest. So, Madam Clerk, if we could proceed, thanks.
Sorry, I'm just having such a good time. Sorry about that.
And now on docket 1375, please.
Docket number 1375, message and order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend an amount of $1,257,011.60 in the form of a grant of FFY 18 Title 3B Supportive Services awarded by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, passed through the Mass Executive Office of Elder Affairs to be administered by the Elderly Commission. The grant will fund a comprehensive and coordinated health and social service system which assists elders to maintain independent living in their own communities as long as desired.
Chair recognizes the Chair of the Committee on Healthy Women, Families, and Communities, Councilor Pressley.
Just a moment. Lots of business, trying to find my notes here.
Do you actually want to, well, we could read the next docket in together. I think that both are in your committee.
Together. Thank
exactly.
you.
Madam Clerk, could you please read the next 1376?
Docket number 1376, message and order authorizes the City of Boston to accept and expend a grant of $474,233.75 for the FY18 Title IIIA Area Plan Administration awarded by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, passed through the Mass Executive Office of Elder Affairs to be administered by the Elderly Commission. The grant would fund administrative expenses of the Elderly Commission Area Agency on Aging.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilor Pressley, you have the floor on docket 1375 and 76.
All right. Thank you for your indulgence. I think it was Barney Frank who once said a cluttered desk is a sign of genius. So, thank you, Madam President. You should all have the committee report on your desks for these two grants. I want to thank Kate Sullivan and all of Central staff for their hard work and creativity in making not only the schedule work for our end-of-the-year hearings, but for getting these reports done so quickly. I have to thank Commissioner Emily Shea, our dedicated Commissioner for Elder Affairs, for her work year-round and for going out and finding these types of grants to support our seniors. Also, the language is evolving there, so you can now say older adults, seniors, or elders, depending on what you're most comfortable with. These are pretty straightforward grants that will support our elders who wish to remain in their homes as they age. It's so critically important that our elders are aging in community, maintaining independence and remaining connectedness to community. The first docket number 1375 will support the hiring of coordinators who will go out to meet our seniors where they are and connect them to existing resources, again, to support them in their independent living. This is critical for our seniors who have limited mobility or access to transportation, but would benefit from being connected to the Commission and being more aware of the services available. The second docket, 1376, is to fund the administrative needs of this critical program. As the chair of the Committee on Healthy Women, Families, and Communities, I move to accept the committee report and I move to accept the committee report and to expend these grants.
Thank you, Councilor Pressley. We'll vote on them one by one. Councilor Pressley moves for passage of docket 1375. All in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 1375 has been passed. And on docket 1376, all in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 1376 has been passed.
Docket number 1465, message and order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend in the amount of $200,000 in form of a grant for the Beta Blocks grant from the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation to be administered by the Mayor's Office. The grant will fund experiments that aim to improve civic life by supporting Boston's efforts to create a process for deploying sensors in urban environments.
Chair recognizes Chair of the Committee on Environment and Sustainability, Councilor O'Malley.
Thank you, Madam President. I have been particularly impressed at how Mayor Walsh and this administration have embraced technology to help the delivery of basic city services. And this goes right towards that end. This is a $200,000 grant from the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation. Yesterday we had a hearing, a very interesting hearing with Chris Carter and Stephen Walter, the co-chair and the program manager for the Mayor's Office of New Urban Mechanics. And the purpose of this grant is going to allow a process in place where we can begin soliciting feedback from the community to talk about how we're going to use technology to help the city run better. This is directly in line with the successful program that was implemented by the Mayor's Office of New Urban Mechanics, finding Boston's safest driver, who I'm proud to announce is a woman from West Roxbury, right in the heart of District 6. The runner-up happened to have been her daughter in that as well, and which we're very proud of. I've always said we will make the term Boston driver synonymous with safety and civility, and we're getting there. You can also use it to use technology to embrace public health issues, environmental issues, in terms of collecting data on smog, in terms of collecting data obviously on traffic, idling cars, etc. We've seen this in Jamaica Pond, the other part of District 6, where you've got a solar-powered bench which people can use to charge their smartphones. So this is happening, and what this grant will do will allow us to not only continue the embrace of technology to make this city better, but also make sure, and this was a commitment I had from both Chris and Stephen yesterday, that we look at all neighborhoods. We don't just obviously focus on the downtown, which is the heart and the economic engine of the city, but really look at some of the more far-flung neighborhoods. There was some concern in a recent Herald article raised about this in terms of data collection in the ACLU. I'm pleased to report that both Chris and Stephen have agreed to have an oversight committee where representatives from the ACLU and other privacy rights organizations will obviously have a seat at the table. We're not looking to capture information that otherwise would be personal in nature, and there are safeguards in place to that as well as safeguards that have been administered by the Knight Foundation in terms of beta plugs. So this is a $200,000 grant. We have to take action today. I urge all my colleagues to support it. This is a great thing, and I did ask the Office of New Urban Mechanics to check in with us in a less formalized setting in the spring to see how that's been going. They've put out an initial RFP, and there were close to 100 applicants, so there's a lot of energy here. In terms of creating a platform, we may do it in-house. We may use some of these funds to help subcontract it out, but this is a great opportunity that's really going to continue to help Boston embrace technology, and will be the better for it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor O'Malley. Councilor O'Malley moves for acceptance of the committee report and passage of docket 1465. All in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 1465 has been passed. I want to recognize and thank our Suffolk County Register and former City Councilor Steve Murphy for joining us today as well. Thank you. And wrapping up with personnel orders, Madam Clerk.
Docket number 1562, Councilor Wu for Councilor McCarthy.
Councilor McCarthy moves for suspension and passage of docket 1562. All in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 1562 has been passed.
Docket number 1563, Councilor Wu.
Chair moves for suspension and passage of docket 1563. All in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 1563 has been passed.
Docket number 1564,
And Chair moves for
Wu.
suspension and passage of docket 1564. All in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 1564 has been passed.
Docket number 1565, Councilor Wu for Councilor McCarthy.
Councilor McCarthy moves for suspension and passage of docket 1565. All in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 1565 has been passed.
Docket number 1566, Councilor Wu for Councilor O'Malley.
Councilor O'Malley moves for suspension and passage of docket 1566. All in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 1566 has been passed.
Docket number 1567, Councilor Wu for Councilor
Councilor
O'Malley.
O'Malley moves for suspension and passage of docket 1567. All in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 1567 has been passed.
Docket number 1568, Councilor Wu for Councilor Flaherty.
Councilor Flaherty moves for suspension and passage of docket 1568. All in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 1568 has been passed.
Docket number 1569.
And Councilor Flaherty
Wu
moves for
Councilor
suspension and
Flaherty.
passage of docket 1569. All in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 1569 has been passed. I'm informed by the clerk that there are 3 late filed matters, which in the absence of objection will be added to the agenda. Brief recess. Madam Clerk, could you please read the first late filed matter?
December 13th, 2017, Council Michelle Wu for Councilor Pressley.
Councilor Pressley moves for suspension and passage of the first late file. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The first late file has been passed.
Docket, second late file offered by Councilors Timothy McCarthy and Michael Flaherty in the City Council. Order for hearing regarding Boston Public Schools start and end times. Whereas BPS has initiated new start and end times for schools, the proposal has brought out many questions regarding how the new system would impact families. Whereas having an open discussion and working together will continue to advance the BPS as one of the best urban school districts in the nation, now therefore it be ordered that the appropriate committee of the Boston City Council hold a hearing to examine the changes to start and end times for the Boston Public Schools. Representatives from the City of Boston, Boston Public Schools, and other interested parties shall be invited to attend. Filed in the City Council on December 13th, 2017.
Councilor McCarthy, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam President. And as far as the offered by, if we could, if there's any objections regarding Rule 12, Councilor Campbell and Councilor Ciommo had also requested to be added to the offer.
No objections registered, so Councilor Campbell and Councilor Ciommo are added as co-sponsors.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Students, teachers, and administrators, extended families have all been affected by the change, whether it's positive or negative, by the start changes and the finishing times of the days in the BPS. Communication is at the heart of what we do here in the City of Boston and in the government. I filed this hearing in order to have a hearing in January, as the city charter would require. We can continue this conversation to build the bridge that we need to build to assist our BPS family. And I want to thank Councilor Mike Flaherty for signing on.
Thank you, Councilor McCarthy. Councilor Flaherty, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Councilor McCarthy, for inclusion. Our offices, I think we speak for everybody here, have received calls from across the city with constituents that are concerned with just trying to get information as to what this means to them, their families, and also what it means moving forward. I know there's a critical deadline coming up somewhere. My memory serves me correct, having had children in the Boston Public Schools. I think it's around mid-January is sort of when the assignment stuff goes out. So at least through this process, we could probably maybe get that process pushed back, even if it's a 30-day pushback, to allow families just to kind of get their hands around this, and also to work with the administration and the school committee to see if we could modify some of these times. So I look forward to an expedited hearing. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor Flaherty. Would any of the co-sponsors like to speak on this first? Councilor Campbell, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Councilor McCarthy, for taking the lead on this. We have received several calls from constituents as well as school leaders. Some have been positive, some have been negative, and so I think this is an appropriate time to revisit the new policy related to start times and end times. While I applaud the administration in their effort to frankly establish an equitable system around start times. So I have heard from some school parents and school leaders that they're happy with the changes in particular neighborhoods in my district. But at the same time, I am troubled by the parents we have heard from who say they didn't know anything about the new times, specifically around the elementary schools, or the school leaders who have called and expressed some anxiety around the new start and end times. I'm confident that BPS will come before us sometime in the this week and next week, to give briefings on how they're going to navigate this, particularly doing outreach with families to have a deeper conversation and discussion about this. I do think it's appropriate and important that we have a hearing as well. Obviously, it has to happen in January, but at the end of the day, it's all about communication. We have to do a better job sometimes communicating what we're doing in the building. And frankly, even though we're sometimes great at things, we can always be better and do better. So thank you again, Councilor McCarthy, for taking the lead. Thank you to all my colleagues who have also taken some step or some form of action to assist parents and families through this process. Thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor Campbell. Councilor Ciommo, you have the floor.
Thank you. Let me also extend my thanks and gratitude to Councilor McCarthy for including me in this hearing order. I just want to echo the comments of all my colleagues. Obviously, our phones and emails were blowing up over this. we just need to communicate better. I also want to give credit to Councilors O'Malley and Councilor Essaibi-George for their work on moving. This was all, put out there because we wanted to have our high school students start later because all of the research shows that they perform better with more sleep and such. I just want to hear more about how it affects elementary school kids at this point, because a lot of our schools got moved maybe from a 9:30 start to a 7:15. So we just need to understand better how that impacts families, both on an education level, but on a family logistic level as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Ciommo. Councilor O'Malley, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Rise to commend the authors, ask that my name be added. Look, I understand the complexity of the Boston Public Schools. As a city, we are hindered by a lot of issues that other urban school districts or rural or suburban school districts don't have to deal with. This is a complex issue, and I appreciate the efforts made by BPS to come up with a better system. This is not it. This is a far worse system. And with all due respect to the folks who've been working on this, and let me be clear, Councilor Essaibi-George and I have been outspoken in our support for a later high school start times. The science there is solid, but that should not come at the expense of an unworkable schedule for elementary schools. This is the biggest issue that I've dealt with in 7 years on the council. I've received more calls, more emails, more social media communications on this than anyone else, and this is something that is affecting literally every block of my district. It's happening at the Linden School, 9:30 start, going to 7:15. The Linden School in West Roxbury is a pilot school, which means the dismissal will occur at 1:15 in the afternoon. It's happening at the Manning. It's happening at the Mendel. It's happening at the Hernandez, a citywide school, starting now at 7:15, so kids could potentially have to leave before 6 a.m. And just as the science shows that high school students perform better with more sleep and with a later start time, the same is true that elementary school students perform worse when it starts too early. You know, New York has a policy in place that no elementary school or no school, I believe, of any time should start before 8 o'clock. And I get it. Again, we have certain constraints that New York City does not have. But again, that should be what we strive to. So I cannot be strong enough to say I oppose this plan as it's been put forward. I think the process, perhaps well-intentioned, missed the mark that this is going to negatively impact so many families throughout the district. I have not heard from one person. It's not true. I received one person who isn't in my district who is supportive, but this has been everyone else to a person has been opposed to this. And the fact of the matter is, as we talk about equity, the cost that will be associated with having to pay for after-school care for a school that gets out at 1:15 or 1:55, that will drive people out of the system and out of the city. So Councilor Essaibi-George and I have worked on a letter. We invite people to sign on to it. I know she'll be presenting it at school committee tonight. My advice is that we hit pause on this plan now. Having a hearing makes sense, and we should, but the fact of the matter is we don't have a lot of time to do this. The student assignment process will begin in earnest in a month from now. So my advice is that as we talk about reconfigurations of schools, as we talk about coming down with fewer school models, meaning less, a K to 8 as opposed to a K to 5 or a K to 6, as we streamline that process, which is something that we all support, as we talk about school consolidations, let's put a pause right now on any changes to school times, keep them as they are now for the next school year, use this time to work on a process in terms of school consolidations, in terms of school structures, and then roll it out, because otherwise what's going to happen, folks, is we're going to have to go through this year and then potentially go through the same thing a year or 2 years later. I do not support these changes as they're presented, and I urge in strongest possible terms the school committee to use the opportunity tonight at their school committee meeting and at subsequent community meetings next week to reverse these decisions. I think it is really incredibly detrimental to the Boston Public Schools, and anything we can do to change that, we ought to be doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor O'Malley. Councilor Essaibi-George, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd also like to be added on to this order. And I think often when we talk about our work, We often find that quote, "Don't let perfect be the enemy of good." But in this case, as we've worked to what I think is a pretty good policy on paper, when we've rolled it out and looked at what the implications are across the district and to all of our schools, it is not even close to good. It's actually awful for so many of our families. And although I am a supporter from day one of later high school start times, as you know, I taught in high school in Boston, it is so important that we not sacrifice our youngest kids in order to do what's right for our oldest kids. This does have to move quickly. The assignment process, the enrollment process, the sign-up process starts the very first week of January, so we have little, if almost no time left. And what strikes me, though, is this continues to be, across the district, a problem of our buses driving and determining what happens in our classrooms. We need to put our children, their academic success, what they need first and foremost at the top of the list when we talk about how we're going to run our schools. The policy on paper is good. It sets some great goals. High school should start after 8 a.m. Hip, hip, hooray. No elementary school should get out after 4 o'clock. Hip, hip, hooray. It doesn't mean 7:15 and 1:15 for a start and an end time is a good thing. We need to go back to the drawing board. Unfortunately, we need to figure this out. We need to do what's right for our kids in our schools in the city of Boston. I will be presenting, in effect, the same comments this evening at school committee, and we need to do this. We need to do it right, and I appreciate the response that we've had, I think, collectively as a body, and I appreciate the reaction and the passion in which many of you have responded to what's really become a crisis for our families and our kids across the district. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Essaibi-George. Madam Clerk, could you please add Councilor O'Malley's name? Please add Councilor Essaibi-George's name. Add Councilor Jackson. Add Councilor Baker. Add Councilor Pressley. And the second late filed matter will be placed on file. Madam Clerk, could you please read the third late file matter, please?
Offered.
So in the opinion of the chair, Rule 33, so let me just explain. Madam Clerk, could you please read the title of the order and the summary of it, and then we will address whether the council may take action on it.
Thank you, Madam President. Offered by Councilor Jackson and City Council. Resolution in support of BPS parents urging the Boston School Committee to hold an additional meeting to cease elementary school start and end time changes for the 2018/2019 school year. Whereas Boston Public Schools must finalize their new start and end times before the beginning of their registration process for new incoming families that begins on January 3rd, 2018, be it resolved that the Boston City Council urges the Boston School Committee to hold a meeting before January 1st to reverse the decision to implement elementary school start and end time changes for the 2018-2019 school year.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So Rule 33 states that no matter introduced at the council can be acted on the same day unless there's unanimous consent. There has been an objection registered now to action on this matter, but I would like to ask Councilor Jackson to speak on this matter and introduce the topic. Councilor Jackson, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Madam President. First, I actually wholeheartedly disagree that this is the same thing, because the matter before us actually is a resolution that would mean this body could go on record prior to the January 3rd date in which young people and their parents are going to have to decide. So this body cannot have a hearing in time to avert this process. It is impossible because as of today, when we adjourn, there are no more committees. And on January 1st, you get sworn in, but they will not, you will not have the opportunity to actually put a hearing forward in order to be able to do a hearing before that January 3rd date. So I just want to go on record and note that is the case. First, I'd like to thank Councilor Matt O'Malley and Annissa Essaibi-George for bringing forward common sense legislation that would advance the opportunities for our young people. What we heard here was amazing. 200-point increases to SAT scores, increased safety, increased opportunities for our young people. Great things were happening when it came to increasing, ensuring that young people after 8 a.m. Had an opportunity to go to high school. Right? We know that there's data that is out there. Well, you know what? There's not data that shows that young people, kindergarten through 8th grade, actually do better. So let's understand and peel back what the school committee did here. The school committee voted in principle. So understand, the school committee did not actually vote on these times. The school committee voted in principle last Wednesday for start times, but final specific times were not formulated until the following day. I'm scratching my head here, and which was Thursday. So the school committee and the public did not know about these new times. So we were all in agreement, and by the way, this body emphatically agreed about the high school times. It is unfair that we are now attached to something that disrupts over 100 of the schools in our district. Of particular concern are the 19 elementary and K-8s that have been assigned a 7:15 start time, of which approximately 9 schools will have a dismissal of times at 1:15. I was in Metco, ladies and gentlemen. I got up early every single day. And so I know what this feels like. I know what it feels like to stand outside in the dark, especially this time of year and in the cold. Concerns have been raised. 105 of the 125 Boston public schools have had time changes, affecting tens of thousands of Boston students and their families. Now, these concerns have been raised by students and parents about their jobs, which is something that we're not only talking about student jobs, we're also talking about parents who have to work, working parents in our city. Before and after school care, which many parents can't afford, they absolutely will not be able to afford additional money out of their pocket, and likely affecting tens of thousands of Boston residents, young and old, especially single-parent households. The State of Black Boston report came out 2010, 2011. 72% of black families in the city of Boston are single-parent households headed by women. This is an undue burden. This may adversely affect special education students, IEPs, but the BPS has not gone through each individual IEP for each school that is affected to see if the time changes break the SPED accommodations. The city of Boston is under guidance from the Department of Justice currently around what we do with our special education students. We cannot move this ship as fast as, or turn the ship as fast as BPS would like to. Registration starts on January 3rd, 2018. This body will not have an opportunity to have a hearing, to have parents' voices here at this body prior to that. So the school committee should meet before this deadline, and if they honor the voices of engagement and of the public, then they will do that. There are 10 public meetings next week, but no school committee meeting to reflect the feedback the public will give before next year's registration begins in January. And so all I was simply doing, Madam President, was giving this body an opportunity not to punt on this, but to take a stand, to use our backbone on this, and to say, this is too fast, it's moving in the wrong direction, and it's affecting too many people all at one time, at a time, by the way, when parents are simply trying to keep their kids in the Boston public schools, to support this school district, and to do what's right by their families. And so although this won't be moving forward, I still believe that this body and the members of this body need to take an emphatic stand prior to January 3rd when this process moves forward. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor Jackson. The third late filed matter will be placed on file. And now I believe we have a follow-up from the green sheets, a second reading of an item. Councilor Ciommo, you have the floor. Could you please help us remember the docket number?
Madam Clerk, can you pull docket 1424 from page 2 on the green sheets, assigned for further action, and detail can be found on page 10 of 10.
Thank you, Councilor. On assigned for further action, page 2, message and order for an approval of an appropriation of $123,055,413 for the purpose of paying the costs for the Boston Arts Academy at 174 Ipswich Street in Boston. It's docket number 1424. If you don't mind, Councilor, I'll read page 10. In the Committee on Ways and Means, docket number 1424, sponsored by the Mayor, message in order for the approval of an appropriation of $123,055,413 for the purpose of paying costs of the Boston Arts Academy, which is a new school facility to be built on the site of the current Boston Arts Academy located at 174 Ipswich Street in Boston. This was referred to committee on November 15th, 2017. On November 28th, 2017, it had a hearing, and on the 29th, it received its first reading.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Docket 1424, now properly before the Council. Councilor Ciommo, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Brian McLaughlin, the Chief of Staff, and Jim McQueen, Senior Project Manager for the Boston Public Facilities Department, John Hanlon, Chief of Operations, Boston Public Schools, and Ann Clark, Headmaster for the Boston Arts Academy, testified on behalf of the administration. Boston Arts Academy is an outstanding program in a deficient facility. The history of this project dates back to its first application to the Mass School Building Authority in 2008. Since then, the project has evolved to its current proposal as a state-of-the-art facility fully rebuilt at its current location. The proposed facility will accommodate 500 students in art majors and will include a 500-seat auditorium, black box theater, recording studio, dance and fitness studios, recital and lecture halls, laboratories, gymnasium, and a freight elevator that will accommodate a grand piano. The project includes widening of sidewalks, adding student drop-off lanes, and increasing the number of crosswalks in the area. The total cost of the project is estimated at $124,755,413. And with the Mass School Building reimbursement, the city could recoup a little under $48 million for that project. Construction is scheduled to be completed in time for the 2021 school year. And I also want to note that the many faculty and students, most whom will not benefit from this project, attended in support of the project. So my recommendation is to take our second vote for passage. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Ciommo. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll for the second reading of docket 1424?
Thank you, Madam President. Councilor Baker?
Yes.
Councilor Baker, yes. Councilor Campbell? Yes. Councilor Campbell, yes. Councilor Ciommo? Yes. Councilor Ciommo, yes. Councilor Essaibi-George? Yes. Councilor Essaibi-George, yes. Councilor Flaherty? Yes. Councilor Flaherty, yes. Councilor Jackson? Yes. Councilor Jackson, yes. Councilor LaMattina? Yes. Councilor LaMattina, yes. Councilor McCarthy? Yes. Councilor McCarthy, yes. Councilor O'Malley? Yes. Councilor O'Malley, yes. Councilor Pressley? Yes. Councilor Pressley, yes. Councilor Wu?
Yes.
Councilor Wu, yes. And Councilor Zachem? Yes. Councilor Zachem, yes. Madam President, docket number 1424 received a unanimous second vote and therefore has passed.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Docket 1424 has received a unanimous second reading and has been passed. Are there any other councilors wishing to pull a matter from the green sheets? No. Then we have concluded our official business, and I'd like to move on to the portion where we open it up for remarks and comments from councilors. It'll be a bittersweet day, but I want to start with our two colleagues here. Councilor Jackson and Councilor Lamati. The consent agenda. We'll do that at the end. Yeah, thanks. Sure.
Good.
Councilor Jackson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise to first thank the district that sent me here, District 7. In March of 2011, I won a special election and got to serve in the neighborhood, the community, and seat of some of our city's most important and prolific leaders. And I am thankful because I believe this is literally the highest honor. I want to thank Steve Murphy for the opportunity to do this at Hibernian Hall. It's kind of interesting. In Roxbury, Hibernian Hall is considered the Roxbury Center for the Arts. I don't think most people knew that it was the order of the Hibernians and the connection with our Irish brothers and sisters. And so I think it's really unique that that's exactly where it happened. I will never forget that day because we practiced everything. We practiced where I was going to stand, where the counselors were going to be, all of the things that we practice. The only thing that I didn't practice was the oath. Mayor Menino said, "Repeat after me." I had no idea what he said. And so, as you can probably see, for the rest of the time, I'm reading over his arm the oath because I did not practice taking the oath. It was one of the most special days of my life, my family's life, my mom who was holding the Bible, and an extension of my father's work. The greatest danger of most of us is not that our aim is too high and we miss it, but that it is too low and we reach it. That's Michelangelo. I shot for the stars this go round. And an amazing thing happened for this skinny little black boy from Roxbury, who was born to a 13-year-old mom, who had been assaulted by two people, who was adopted by Herbert and Rosa Jackson, who's one of 8. I got to run for mayor of the city of Boston, to serve the city that gave me an opportunity that for many, and most data would tell me I wouldn't actually have. I am thankful to my staff. I want to thank my Chief of Staff, Nichelle Sadler. You came on one of the craziest days, our swearing in, and you have served honorably. You have worked so hard. You have kept me from saying a lot of crazy things on this floor. So you guys have only been exposed to about 25% of the things that I may have wanted to say on this floor. I've had to throw you out of the office for staying too long and for working too hard. You have made me a better counselor, a better leader, and a better person. And I am absolutely grateful for your service. Thank you so much. education. I want to thank you for your dedication and passion for all things education, for your creativity, your hard work, and the fire that burns in your belly around issues of equity, opportunity, and our young people. You are a lot bigger of a person in terms of your belly than you stand. But the service that you have given to the people of the city of Boston and the District 7 is very honorable, and we are a better district and city because of your service. Thank you, brother. Enrique, thank you for being the intern who just wouldn't leave. Kind of like that guy in Office Space. You just kept on, your internship ended and you just kept on coming back. I want to thank you for your vision, your hopeful view of all things in our city, and your understanding that young people can actually make a difference. And I want to thank you for one of the most important times that I've seen you lead was when we got to go back to your old school. And you got to speak to the people who sat in the same seats that you sat in. You are a true leader, and I look forward to the amazing things that you will do for our city. Love you, man. And I want to thank you for your internship, but I want to thank you for hitting the ground running, never being flustered, dealing with all of the craziness that is our office, and for your contribution to keeping us all organized, on track, and focused at all times. You have been an amazing addition to our office, and thank you for your service. Justin Brown, I want to thank you for putting up with me. You live in the same house as I do, so you have to deal with all of me. I want to thank you for pushing me to be healthier, to be better, and to do more and be more. You have been one of the most motivating factors in making this experience what it is. I am motivated and inspired by you, man. I love you. Thank you so much. So to my colleagues, I want to thank you for making this experience real. I want to thank you for challenging me, for making me more understanding, stronger, and having more resolve. I want to remind you, though, that the most common way people give up their power is by thinking they don't have any. Those are the words of Alice Walker. And the reason why I remind you is you're going to read in the paper every single day that this body is a weak city council. It's a weak body. We can't do anything. We don't make a difference. I absolutely wholeheartedly disagree. The work that we do in this body, on this floor, is honorable. But I want all of us to understand that we can do more. We have to do more. The people in our neighborhoods, the people in our communities require us to do more. There's more housing issues than there's ever been. There's more violence than we've seen in a long time in our city. And I just want to remind you that the future is calling you. And the question is, will you answer the call? The future of the Boston Public Schools. Will we fully fund our public schools? Will we give the kids in Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan, East Boston, Charlestown, Jamaica Plain, Austin, Brighton, the same chance, the same opportunity, the same value and same funding as our folks in Brookline, Weston, Newton, Cambridge? And will you fight for it? Will you vote against a budget that doesn't meet those prerequisites or requirements? The power is yours. 7 members of this body can block any budget. The question is, are we going to use the most important bone in our body every single time that we take those votes, which is our backbone? I refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity of our nation. But I think when Dr. King wrote those words, he was also talking about our city. We have enough. We have more than enough to make sure that we can do right by our young people, to make sure that we can do right by the businesses that are not represented in our city. We have more than enough to make sure that we can make sure in our city and our time that we value the lives of every person in our city. And a life on Blue Hill Ave means the same as a life on Commonwealth Ave. We can do that in our time. We can deal with and appreciate the Globe doing a extensive, exhaustive restating of many of the issues of our time. Many of the things that they're talking about are exactly what I've talked about for the past year. We live in a city that a white family has a median net worth of $247,500, and a black family has a median net worth of $8. And in my district, and I say it all the time, from my friend Josh Akins' end of Back Bay to Roxbury, there's a 33-year difference in life expectancy. That's our city. It's our time. And it's our chance and opportunity to step up. And I believe that this body is the means and the medium to actually make that change. Go forward and do amazing and great things. And don't ever forget that a candle loses nothing by lighting another candle. And with all of those things, I would just note I'm proud of the work that I've done here. I'm proud of the fights that I've waged here. In particular, question number 2. And it was our body, our city, who I believe made the big splash in the state of Massachusetts to say that we are going to back up our public schools, that we're going to back up our public school parents, and that we're going to do right by uplifting all students, not just some students. We did that here. And I'm grateful for that opportunity. And I always say that when it's all said and done, we get a headstone. And there's 3 things on it. There's your name, the date you came here, and the date you leave. The most important part of that headstone is the dash. And it's a question mark about what did you do? Where did you stand? What did you stand for? And how many people did you hold the door open for behind you. So, Madam President, and Madam President, it's pretty cool to get to say that. I submit to you that I am proud of the dash that my office and legacy has made on this council. And I want to thank each of you for the opportunity to serve with you, to advance the conversation. I also want to thank Mayor Walsh for his work and for stepping forward to do it again. But I also want to thank him for the opportunity to hold him accountable. This will be my last time speaking from here, but it won't be my last word. There is much more work to do. And I ran not because of an individual, but I ran because of the issues. And I encourage my friend, Mayor Walsh, to continue to work steadfastly on these issues, because we're Boston and we can actually fix the things that lie before us. Our best days are ahead of us, not behind us. And I leave you with, I believe, one of the best poets of the 21st century. The quote is, "Stay far from timid, only make moves when your heart's in it, and love the phrase, the sky's the limit." Tito Jackson out. That's Notorious B.I.G. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilor Jackson. Councilor LaMattina, you have the floor.
Wow. Let me cry. Wow. Thank you, Tito. So where do I begin? When I was thinking about my last meeting and my last speech in this chamber, I was thinking, how lucky am I to have worked in this city of Boston for 30 years and 11 years as a city councilor? How lucky are we as Boston city councilors to represent this great city? I am so thankful to this city of Boston, where my Italian immigrants came in the early 1900s, who lived in the North End in East Boston. I am so thankful that I am able to live in this city with my wife, Lisa, to raise a beautiful daughter, Ayanna. This past June, I had the opportunity to be the keynote speaker at East Boston High School. And I was really excited because I really wanted to talk to the students, especially the Latino students, because I know that a lot of them are nervous and concerned with all the rhetoric that was going on in Washington. And I wanted to tell them my story. Growing up in East Boston, single mother on welfare, 4 boys in 4 rooms. My Italian immigrant grandparents on the first floor, they only spoke Italian. I wanted to tell them a story about my mother and my aunts. In those days, the girls would have to quit school early so they could work and support their family. But I also wanted to tell them that if you work hard in our city, that there is opportunities for you. I was the first one in my Italian immigrant family to go to college and graduate, first one. And But I was so grateful because I had a really strong family, but I also had a great neighborhood. And there's that phrase, it takes a village to raise a child. I was so lucky to have East Boston, a neighborhood that helped me. The Salesian Boys and Girls Club, the East Boston Social Centers, the East Boston Camps, the Parish Street Gym, the Harborside Community Centers, places that helped me grow. And I'm mentioning this work because the work that we do here is so important to the people who live in our great city. Our job as city councilors is to make sure that every child in every neighborhood have the same opportunities that we had as children growing up in the city. When I look around this chamber, I am so proud of all my fellow councilors here and the work that you contribute to make Boston a better city. Josh, your work on immigrants, immigration rights, voter rights. Ayanna, women issues. I love what you do on women issues because it reminds me the opportunities that my mother and my aunts didn't have. And when I talk to my immigrant families, and particularly women, I tell them, well, you could go on to college and do better things. Matt, the environmental issues that you work on are so important. So, so important. A lot of us in East Boston experienced that we had a flash flood a couple of months ago and our cellars got flooded. I'll be thinking of you every time I have to pay a nickel when I forget my dad back. Timmy, I appreciate the work that you do in basic city services. You and I come from the same stock. We started in neighborhood services. You went to Public Works, I went to Transportation Department. I appreciate you. The basic city services is so important. And Tito, the work that you do with public education is so important. And the issues you bring up in the Black community is so, so important. So keep up that. I really appreciate that. Annissa, I really appreciate the work that you do with the homeless students. And I appreciate you're a teacher. I'm so happy you're wearing your blue and gold today. A teacher at East Boston High School. Mark Ciommo is my brother from another mother. Mark, thank you for your work for years and years. You work as chairman of Ways and Means. You know that budget inside out, and you always work on behalf of us, negotiating with the administration. So thank you. I really appreciate that. Andrea Campbell, I am so proud of you. I am really so proud of you. You're going to be a great city council president, and I'm looking forward to good things happening in the city with you. And I appreciate the work that you have done with public safety and working with the police commissioner to address some of the issues. Frank Baker, I have watched you grow the last few years, and you are a remarkable city councilor. And I really love your passion in regards to substance abuse and the issues in your neighborhood. My Madam President, you have brought charm and elegance to the city council after Murphy and Winahan. I have to fight. It's my last speech. Come on. But thank you for the work that you have done in this council, particularly with the small businesses that are so important to our neighborhoods and in climate change. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I'm so proud of every single one of you because what you are doing, you're doing your part to make Boston a better city so every kid will have that opportunity to live in a city, a great city. I'm also proud that on this council that we have worked together. For my 11 years here, particularly the last few years, as a council we worked as one body. And Trav and John Nucci would tell you in the past it was never like that. There would be fights. There'd be dropping dimes. That hasn't happened here. And it's because we all work together. And I always said that. It's something I learned as a kid. And Jim McGrain's here at East Boston Camps, is that when all give, all gain. And that's what we did. We all gave. And guess what? The city gained because we all worked together. And for that, I am so grateful. As I look back in my career in government, I have had the opportunity to work for 3 mayors. And actually, if you count my days as a lifeguard, Diane, and a water safety instructor. I actually worked for 4 mayors, including Kevin White. But I am so thankful for Mayor Flynn for giving me the opportunity to work in his Office of Neighborhood Services in 1987. And I was his neighborhood coordinator for the North End and East Boston. And he also gave me the opportunity to work on the Central Artery project that I worked on for many, many years, which was the largest public works projects in the country at its time. And working with the neighborhoods, we really changed the landscape of the city of Boston for the better. I'm so proud of that work that I did with the neighborhood folks and the administration and the state on that project. Mayor Menino. Wow. How lucky am I to have 20 years. I spent 20 years with Mayor Menino, but I actually met him in 1987 when his office was next to Trav. And I was so proud. I worked so hard for him. I was so proud when he became the first Italian mayor in the city of Boston. I don't think the people in the North End and East Boston, the Italian Americans in our city, ever thought we'd ever see that. And it was so great to be able to work for him. And he gave me opportunities to work as Director of Operations in the Transportation Department, which was a great job. I had a lot of toys. I could put signs up anywhere I want them. And it was Mayor Menino who really encouraged me to run for city council when Paul Scapicchio gave up his seat, because he knew that I always wanted to run for city council. And I did. And I won. And I had 11 half years of really working for my neighborhoods. Mayor Marty Walsh, let me just say this. It has been an honor to be working with Mayor Marty Walsh. And I want to congratulate him on his re-election. I really like the things that he's doing in the city right now. And I look forward to the next 4 years with Marty Walsh, because I think a lot of good things are going to happen. There are so many people that I really, really need to thank. But the most important person in my life is my wife, Lisa. So 30 years ago, I love that picture. 30 years ago, when I was offered a job to work for Mayor Menino, I was working at Crossroads Family Shelter at the time, and we were about to get married, and a lot of our friends and families moved out of East Boston. And so we had to make that decision if we were going to stay in East Boston or we were going to move out. And my wife said to me that we got to take care of our neighborhood, East Boston, so we stayed. And with that, at least I hope we made a difference in this neighborhood. To my beautiful daughter, Ayanna, who's here with her boyfriend, Angel. Ayanna, you have made me so proud. And when you talk about the opportunities for the people and the young people of the city of Boston, there's opportunities that you took advantage. You went to Boston Latin and you graduated Boston Latin. She went to BU on a City of Boston scholarship, a City of Boston scholarship. And that's the opportunities that we have in this city, that if you go to school and you graduate from Boston Public Schools, you have opportunities. I'm so proud of you. She's in law school. Ayanna, thank you for working all my campaigns, marching in all those parades with me. You were awesome. My staff. Where's my staff? They're all over the place. Judy Evers, Kathy Carangelo, they've been with me from day one. Janet Knox, she's up there somewhere. Laurie Toscano's here. Christian's home sick. I think he's watching us on TV. My former staff, Michael Sinatra and Stephen Pascantilli. I need to thank my staff for putting up with me for 11 half years. They really, really worked so hard for me on behalf of my district. And I truly, truly thank you all, and I will miss you all. I want to thank the City Council staff. Thank God for our City Council staff because they make all our City Councils look good. So to the staff, thank you all for the work that you've done and do for me and the City Council. Thank you very much. But I also want, most importantly, to thank is the City of Boston employees who deserve a lot of recognition, and they really don't sometimes. I really appreciate the work that they do, particularly coming from those departments in basic city services. I appreciate Public Works, the Parks Department, Transportation Department, Code Enforcement, the Police Department, all those basic city services departments that I work closely every single day. And our neighborhood's looking so much better today because of the folks that work in those departments, and I'm so grateful for them. And I also want to thank the mayor again for putting some really good people in those positions in his administration. You know, growing up in East Boston, I had some amazing mentors in my life. Taste of Village. Jim McGrain is here from East Boston Social Centers and the East Boston camps. John White, Johnny Forbes, and the late Marty Pino, who had the opportunity to rename the Orient Heights Center. Those guys looked after me as a young kid growing up in East Boston. Made sure that I was doing the right things. I am so fortunate to have them in my life. In my political life, Robert Travellini. So I have known Trav probably since I was 13 years old. And so when I worked for Mayor Flynn, I was in his office probably every single day. But I learned from Trav that politics is about helping people. Every day he would be getting phone calls, and he would be on that phone, making phone calls, trying to help people. I learned so much from you, Trav, so thank you for being here. And I'm so proud of Robert Travellini because he was the first Italian Senate president in the state of Massachusetts. So, Robert, thank you. So the last few years, I really had an opportunity to work with some awesome, great guys in my neighborhood, in my district. I really should use this time to roast them because they did a number on me a couple of weeks ago, particularly Senator Anthony Petrocelli. But Anthony, he was part of the Menino family. When he first came out of college, we spent a lot of time in June Lombardi's office. He worked in neighborhood services, and we worked together, closely together in those days. We had a fight sometimes in the neighborhood. We got that early learning center. And I have worked on his campaign to be the representative and the state senator, and you really served us proudly, Anthony. So thank you for being here. I really appreciate that. Carlo Basil could not be here, but he was someone that we really enjoyed working with. Aaron Michaelwitz is here. Representative Michaelwitz from the North End. Aaron, I would say you're like a son, but in Sal DeMasi we get mad. But we have worked together since day one as a team in the North End, as a team. And you are doing amazing stuff at the State House. You have a great, great future. I am so proud to call you a friend. We spent a lot of Patriots Days together, or Miss Patriots Day together, with that little parade to downtown in the North End. And we survived the Boston Marathon bombing. But thank you for being a really, really good friend. I know Senator Sal DiDomenico is not here, and Dan Ryan, two of my good friends from Charlestown that I had an opportunity to work closely with. Dan Ryan, I ran against him. We ran against each other for the special election, and we became really good friends. And I credit Dan Ryan for bringing Charlestown together. because in Charlestown those days it was the Townies and the Toonies. And they didn't know Sal Lamartina from East Boston, so they all supported Dan Ryan, which they should have. And he brought that town together. And Sal DiDomenico, who I call Little Sal in Charlestown. Imagine 2 Sals representing Charlestown. How awesome is that? But I'll miss Sal. He's doing a great job at the State House, and I hope there's a great future. Representative Adrian Madaro, he's home watching us because he's sick. But poor Adrian, he has Carlo on one side and me on the other side, but he's turned out to be a really great representative, so I'm so proud of Adrian. And Senator Joe Boncore, I wish I had more time to spend with him, but I think he's going to do a great job. I'm so fortunate to have some former city councilors. And one thing about what I love about East Boston is we help each other and we support each other. John Nucci's here and Diane Monica. Thank you, Diane and John. So Diane gives me more advice. John Nucci is always texting me when he's stuck in traffic. Like he's been more like a constituent lately. But in January, you could call my friend Lydia Edwards. Lydia, congratulations. I am so happy for you. I really am. We're really going to work well together, and I'm staying in East Boston. I'm not going anywhere. So I appreciate that you'll be here working for the people. But I just want to end on a note to the people of Charlestown, East Boston, and North End. I want to thank you for giving me this incredible opportunity to serve you in this Boston City Council. It was always a dream. It was always a dream to be here. And I know something, I need to thank my mother. Because my mother is probably watching me right now on TV. And I'm thanking my mother because my mother took me, and I'm going to say it, John, go ahead, I don't care. My mother took me to an anti-busing rally in 1974 because my mother believed in neighborhood schools. And today, as we're talking about early start times, right? As we talk about early start times, it's all because of busing. If we didn't have to use all that money on transportation and we went back to neighborhood schools, because this is a different city than it was in '74. We are a better city today than it was in 1974. And I look at all that money that we could be spending in our schools. So, Ma, you were right. And then finally, to my colleagues, I will miss every single one of you. But please, I ask that we work together, continue to work together. Because our city is a better city when we work together. Our city is a stronger city when we work together. I will miss working here at City Hall. It's been remarkable, 30 years in city government. And I just hope that other young folks in our neighborhoods will have the same opportunity that I have working as a city councilor. With that, I want to thank you all, and I love you all, and I'll miss you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Lamartina. So we'll open it up at this point to colleagues. Feel free to stand and address both of our colleagues at the same time, or just one, and then take a second round later. We'll keep going around until everybody said everything they want to say. So we'll start first. Councilor O'Malley, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I can remember my first telephone conversation with Sal Lamartina. I don't know if he remembers it, but bear with me a second. When he was running for the district seat, As he mentioned, his opponent was now our good friend, State Rep Dan Ryan. Now, my campaign manager when I had run for city council at large was also named Dan Ryan, a different Dan Ryan. There's probably 4,000 Dan Ryans in the city of Boston. But the East Boston Sun somehow confused the names and wrote that I was running Dan Ryan's campaign. I had never met Dan Ryan at that time. So my first call wasn't to Sal, it was to Michael Knievi, saying it's not me. And then my second call was to Sal, and that began a great friendship. You know, we often say that this body is like a family. At times we can be a dysfunctional family, but we are a family nonetheless. And as opposed to larger legislative bodies, there's 13 of us. So we get to know each other's spouses and kids and parents. And even when we disagree on issues, there's that mutual respect. And one of the things I love most about Sal is that for the 7 years I've been here, and other than Councilor Pressley, who came in earlier in the year, and Councilor Ciommo now, I've been here longer than most, Sal's always been the most popular member of this body among his colleagues. And there's very good reason for that, because he's the genuine article, he gets it, his work ethic is legendary. I welled up when you welled up talking about our friend and one of the greatest mayors this world has ever seen, Tom Menino. And Sal, I think you are just like Tom Menino in your love for the city, and the fact that you never stop, and in the fact that it's about collaboration, it's about bringing people together. And that is a rarity in politics, unfortunately, but you've done that. You have been an amazing leader for your district. Your pride in your neighborhood is unparalleled. I know Mayor Walsh was kind enough to give you a Paul Revere bowl, and I know it'll be sitting behind you in whatever office you are sitting in next year. And when people ask what's that, you're not going to say a Paul Revere bowl. You're going to say this is some guy from the North End made these bowls. And I am just a better counselor because of your friendship and guidance. And quite frankly, I think I'm a better person for the same reasons. You will be deeply, deeply, and dearly missed. Tito Jackson. I was proud, along with Tom Doherty, to do robocalls for candidate Jackson in his at-large run in 2009. He came up a little short, as I did in my at-large run. He, myself, Rob Consavo, I think, are three individuals who had unsuccessful at-large runs that then translated into successful district runs. And it's better because we work harder as district councilors and do more as district councilors. But one of the things I love after that, you know, we became real friends and worked closely in Governor Patrick's re-election in 2010 when I got the call that my predecessor, John Tobin, was stepping down and decided to run for this. And Tito returned the favor, and it was a great friendship that came from that. I won a special in November of 2010. The following March in 2011, Tito became Councilor-elect Jackson. And I was glad you mentioned his swearing in, and as then Council President Murphy presided over in Hibernian Hall. That was important for a whole host of reasons, and that was also a very healing moment. And that, I think, sets the tone of the type of counselor you are and you were. You care. You can bring people together. You find that common ground. And like I said with Councilor Lamartine, the same holds true for you. I'm a better counselor because of our friendship, and I'm certainly a better person for the same reasons. We haven't always seen eye to eye, but that never stopped us from watching the Patriots at Kelleher's in Roslindale and always having a great time. Both of you guys will be so missed from this body. We are a better city because of what you have done, and we will continue to be a better city for what you are about to do. Finally, wanted to thank, obviously, your staffs as well. We are lucky each and every one of us have phenomenal staffs that make us as good and as effective as we are, and we know they'll still be working in some capacity, obviously, but we're grateful for all of your staff, both of your staffs. And then on this note, you know, as a wise man once said, we all give, we all gain. You both have given and given and given, and this city has gained and gained and gained. Thank you very much, my friends. We will miss you, but we know we will see you. So, lastly, before I cede the mic, I also wanted to acknowledge Michelle Wu as her presidency comes to an end today, or whenever, I guess, January, if our president-elect comes in. Michelle, you have led this body with honor, with dignity. You've been a visionary in many respects. You've really helped this city and this body move forward, and I am proud of you. I was proud to have eventually voted for you for council president, and proud of the type of leader that you were. Truly, you've been a phenomenal council president, and I personally and professionally am very, very grateful for that. So thank you, Mr. Vice President. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Councilor O'Malley. Councilor Pressley.
First, I just want to say, being a fourth Sicilian, I'm still going to hold down the Italian cause. Okay, you know, a couple of us are still going to hold that down. I just wanted to say, thinking of that very proud history, Italian Americans built this city brick by brick. And you've done the same thing, building upon that legacy. And I'm just reminded of our first meeting. I was meeting with Sal to ask for his support. And he was such a gentleman and very honest from the beginning that I wouldn't be getting it. But, but he said he really liked me. But the funny part of that story is that I was waiting for him at a restaurant, and he was late. And when he came in, he was on the phone talking to Public Works, and he apologized for being late, and it was because he was picking up trash on his way to the meeting, which I think is just, again, so consistent that there's no job that Sal is considered to be too small, because he takes such pride in service, such pride in his neighborhood, whether it's volunteering at a soup kitchen or donating to a food pantry or giving out turkeys or picking up trash on the street because it just upset you so much that people would litter. You have been principled in your parochialism. You are sincere and authentic. Your work ethic is unparalleled. Thank you for your love of your neighborhood, of your district, of city government, and of our city. I thank you for your early support on, everything from liquor license reform to my efforts to strengthen pathways to graduation for expectant and parenting teens. You've always stood up and supported my work around trauma. I thank you for that. And I want to thank you for standing up for the dreamers. That will certainly be a part of your legacy in your tenure as a city councilor. I want to acknowledge that you are a loving and dedicated husband and father, and just such, your character, just the measure of a man, truthfully. So just thank you for being the man that you are. Thank you for being the public servant that you have been. And in closing, I'll just say that you certainly have Eastie pride. And we all have pride in you. So thank you for your service. All right. Councilor Jackson, brother and dear friend, the man with a penchant for 90s dance moves and quoting statistics from Governing Magazine and, moving quotes, philosophical and political. I want to thank you for your fire in the belly to serve. I want to thank you for your faithfulness to your cause. And I even want to say your faithfulness to God, because in so many ways, every step that you've taken has been proof of your faith. And as you often talk about, God's grace in your life. When I think about the fact that you wore a red shirt and served on the Mayor's Youth Council, and now I serve as a city councilor and ran for mayor. So I thank you for your fire in the belly to service, your faithfulness to your cause. I thank you for your fearlessness in the pursuit of equity and justice. I thank you for your love of community, your pride of District 7, for being a passionate advocate for youth, for peace, for education, for innovation, for small business. And you're certainly not shy. But I will say, one of the things I will forever be indebted to you for, and have had so many of these moments with you, is the quiet moments. And I just want to thank you. Many people don't know this, but when my mother was on life support for 3 months, Tito came to the hospital every night. They told me that her body was there, but she wasn't there anymore, but I didn't care. I never wanted her to be alone. And every night, he came at midnight and relieved me. so she wouldn't be alone, so I could rest for a couple of hours. And so, that's the man that's been my friend, and in quiet moments has been there for me and so many people that you'll never know, whose children have been murdered on these streets, women who have been violated or exploited. I just want to thank you for those quiet moments that the world won't know those names, but each of those people are keenly aware and will never forget, as will I. And finally, I do just want to say about District 7. I was reminding a reporter the other day that it wasn't that long ago that the lion's share of the racial diversity on this body were men of color. And it's a very proud tradition, District 7 in particular. Bruce Bowling, Garrett Saunders, Chuck Turner, and now Tito Jackson. I just want to say job well done. You honor the leadership legacy of D7 oh so well. And since I know you love quotes, I'm reminded of, I guess it wasn't a quote, but a description of someone that I know has been a great influence in your life and the lives of so many of us by his inspiring example. And it was an article written about Mel King. And they described him as follows: crusader, educator, ex-legislator, former mayoral candidate, neighborhood stalwart, technology buff. You are in good company. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, Councilor Pressley. Councilor Ciommo, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to thank both of our departing colleagues for their friendship, for their support. When I first started running to join this body, both of you were there to offer advice, to offer guidance, to offer support. And when we came in to this building, Tito, your office is still right next to mine over there. It was easy to just poke our head in, whether it was me or one of my staff, and the same at Sal's office. If we had a question, we said, how do you file this? Who do you call over an ISD for this particular issue? Especially in the first few months. Both of you and your teams were so helpful, and it made a huge difference for me, for my team, and for the people we represent in District 8. Sal, as I got to know you, our time here is, learning more and more about how much you cared, not just about the people you represent, although there's no mistake that you first care most about the people you represent in your district. It was a great partnership, I think, and your guidance and support was so important. And I can't recall a time we had disagreement, not of any substantive disagreement, but I do remember a couple times when you said to me, you sure you're going to do this? You sure that's a good idea, going out front on this issue? But I know, as Ayanna mentioned about your support for Dreamers, when I did file the Trust Act now 3.5 years ago, maybe more, I think you were the first call after we filed that, and you said, I'm there. I support you. We need to do this. We need to do this for the people in your district. We need to do this for the people in the city of Boston to make sure that they feel safe, that they are protected, that they can trust the police department. And that's something that I think a lot of people probably don't know. A lot of people probably don't know how strong you've been in defense of civil rights and equality the time we've been together on this council. And it's been alluded to and it's been talked about by many of us, I think, over certainly this session today, but over the past few years, that this body has really always, at least as long as most of us at this point have been here, I guess I'm getting about middle range seniority now that you guys are leaving, which is a little scary to think about. But this body has always stood together, I think, and often defied stereotypes and often defied expectations to speak with one voice on issues of justice and equality. So I want to thank you for that, and I look forward to continuing work together outside this building and wherever you're going to go. It's been a joy and a pleasure and honor to work with you here. Councilor Jackson, been a friend, someone who I'd enjoyed watching Patriots games with, enjoyed watching Super Bowls with, enjoyed sampling some of the finer establishments in my district and where our districts come together. Certainly sometimes after dark, sometimes not. But I want to thank you, though, as I already said, for your guidance and your support, but for your moral compass and the way you have been unwavering in the time we've been here on what you believe is right and what you're going to do and what you're going to do not just for your constituents, but for all the people who call Boston home, who work here, who visit here, who live here. I especially want to thank you for staking out positions on some of these issues, which, when I thought I was getting a little out there, you made me look much more moderate on a lot of these things. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. It's made life a little easier for me on some of those things. But it's been, was proud to support so many of the causes you championed. In our first term, my first term rather, we chaired the Education Committee and I was chairing the Civil Rights Committee, as we both still do. On issues of equity and justice in the public schools, the school buses for middle school students. I think you and others, it was my first budget vote, and leading the charge on that and talking through with me how important it was, and being able to stand together on that vote was important, an important first step. And just having the ability, as I'm sure any of our colleagues can attest, in your first months or years here on this body, to have folks that you know are trying to do the right thing and that are willing to share their expertise and knowledge, certainly I think made me a more effective legislator here, a better representative for my constituents. So I want to thank you both for that. I know we've not heard the last of either of you, I think, in this building, probably not even in this chamber, and I look forward to continuing that work together, and I hope you guys will enjoy this holiday season, maybe take it easy a little bit for a while, but I look forward to what's come next, and I look forward to spending more time with both of you. Thank you. And
Thank
I
you.
don't want to neglect, though, Madam President, who's not going anywhere except, I guess, where you're going to say, oh, you'll be back next to me. All right. I want to say we're standing in a beautiful renovated chamber that is more accessible to the people of the city of Boston because of your leadership. You have tackled, you certainly have time to tackle the big issues, and you've done that. But what people often forget, I think, about the president's role, and Councilor Campbell, you can look forward to this, is all the things that we see, that we don't see, managing this institution. And I can't think of a better example than the chamber we're sitting in now. It's not just these are new desks. It's that we have areas for folks who are not, who are mobility impaired to come and testify, who don't have to come down unsafe ramps, as happened in a hearing that we were co-chairing a couple years ago, which led to this. So I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for your friendship, and I look forward to obviously continuing our work here together. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Zachem. Councilor McCarthy, you have the floor.
Wow. Good, because I have to go to the bathroom. Listen, I'm going to keep it light. Like, this is like a funeral. So, right. You guys, work hard. You call everybody back. The city loves you. You love the city. We got it. We covered all that. So, let's just get that. And it's true. The city does love you and blah, blah, blah. So, Tito Jackson. We've been friends for 4 years. Hibernian Hall. Didn't know that story. Had no idea you were Irish. That might have helped you in District 5. I'm just saying. Might have helped you. Black eye. Well, I tan up pretty good. You've been a good friend. I knew you were going to be all right when we became good friends over in Israel. And before we left the trip, we were supposed to be roommates. And God's honest truth, Tito walked out to me and goes, brother, I snore like you would not believe. You do not want this to happen. And thank God it didn't happen. I got my own little room, and it was fantastic. And we had a wonderful time. But you do care about the city. You've given such a great effort, and I appreciate it. We'll be friends. I hope you'll land on your feet. I know you will. I have no doubt you will. So good luck in everything you do. Salamatina, January 20th, 1993. First day I met you. You don't remember this. And like Matt said, it was on a phone call, because you and Baker and Ciommo were always on the phone, for the record. But when I walked in, actually, I looked over that. I thought it was an Italian flag raising was going to happen. That's the first time I've seen everybody in the same room together. Ann McGuire was walking me around my first day in room 708, and the Central Artery Tunnel Project team was next door. And Ann McGuire is walking me around. She's introduced me to different people. And she said, well, let me take you into the Central Artery Tunnel Project. At the time, Peter Welsh was your boss. So I met Peter and Sue and everybody. And then there's you. You're in the corner. You had the office kind of facing the Quincy Market. And you were yelling at this guy on the phone. This is my first day ever in a real job. I know, you're finding it hard to believe. And all I remember you saying is like, you don't know what you're talking about. This is going to be the greatest thing that ever happened to the city of Boston. And you hang up the phone. I was like, well, the Kennedy Greenway came out pretty good, so you know what? You were right. So I wanted to keep it light. I appreciate your effort. You know you're a good friend, and I'll see you around.
Thank you, Councilor McCarthy. Councilor Essaibi-George, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. And I think about sort of my thoughts about the two of you, and I really think about today for Tito and Sal, that this is a joyous celebration of the work that you've been able to do, both that I've been able to witness firsthand, up close the last 2 years, but then also over the legacy of your career so far. And Tito, you talked about the best days ahead, and the best days are truly ahead. And Tito, you talk so much about that dash, and you've referenced it many times on this council floor. And I think about all that you haven't done to fill that dash yet. And since you're younger than me, you've got so much more time to fill that dash, and I can't wait to watch that. And I think about, and I take from you, and what I feel I want to keep that's yours as you move on to what's next for you, is I want to keep your passion, especially for our kids in the Boston Public Schools. I want to take from you the lack of fear that you have when dealing with some of the most difficult issues that we face as a city, and I want to take that for me. I don't want to ever be afraid in the way that you're never afraid to tackle those issues. I want you to know that I have never along the way doubted your heart and your soul down to the core for these kids. And you know that those kids are so important to me too. And I want to keep that for me as you go. And I wrote down what you said when you were speaking, that candle loses nothing when it lights another candle. And I came here with my own agenda. I've come here with my own work and my own interests. But I want you to know that lack of fear that you have and that passion that you have, you've lit that in me. And I'd like to think I've got a little bit of a candle myself, but you've made it that much stronger and I think that much brighter. And I remember after I lost in 2013, when I first ran for Councilor at Large, thank you, Matt, you called me and you said, I know you're a sister. You said that quote to me, and I said, thank you, Tito. You were acknowledging me, you were seeing me. And so much of this work that we've been able to do together, although sometimes it was difficult for the both of us because I think we embody very similar passion, very similar commitment. But you acknowledged me and you heard me and you listened to me and you were able to work with me and you were able to give me, when you worked without fear and when you worked with that deep passion, you were able to give that to me and empower some of the work that I've been able to do. And I want to thank you for that. And I want you to know that I am so proud of you and all that you've been able to do and so excited for all that's ahead of you. And I just can't wait to watch and I can't wait to applaud that. And I want you to know that the best days are ahead for you. Sal, I actually met Sal a very different way than many of you. I met him when I was coaching Ayanna as her first softball coach in East Boston. And think about all of the fun we had. I think she was about 6 or 7 years old, and teaching a great group of girls in Eastie how to play softball, a sport that I love so much, and meeting Sal then and not knowing who the hell is he? Like, he's some political guy. And I was just a teacher at the high school, and he probably thought of me, she thinks she's going to get into politics. And I have worn my blue and gold for you today because I know your deep love for East Boston. And to even stand next to you and talk about Eastie makes me so proud and so happy. And to be able to call you friend, even after being elected to this body and in public rooms, you saying out loud, I was really afraid of her. I didn't know what we were getting when she came. I was so worried. And I thought to myself, I think I've done a pretty good job supporting you and working alongside you and learning from you. And being able to spend time with you, both at this council chamber, in East Boston in particular, that I know you love so much, has been a wonderful, wonderful experience for me. And I wanted to share one quick story, because you talk about your staff and the support that your staff has given you over these years. When I was teaching at Eastie, I had a student that was looking for a job, and he wanted to work at the animal control office from Eastie all the way out in Roslindale. And we couldn't get him in. Like, they wouldn't talk to us. They just said, you know, I'm going to call Sal, because the city councilor, this is the work they're supposed to be doing. And I talked to Janet in your office, and it wasn't ours. That we didn't have him at animal control. We had him in a job at the new dog grooming place at the time in Maverick Square. And, like, you got it done. And you got it done, I think of my students as my kids, but you got it done for our kids. You got it done for that Eastie kid. And that only happened through your office, because you set that tempo for your staff. You said, when we get those calls, we have to make this work happen. So it's been a tremendous joy working here with you this last 2 years, the two of you. And I do so look forward to seeing what's next and what's ahead, and how the two of you will take on this next adventure in your life. So thank you for letting me be a part of it for this short period of time. And I look forward to celebrating what's next. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Essaibi-George. And I neglected to mention another special guest who's been with us, District 2 City Councilor-elect Ed Flynn's here. Welcome. Councilor Ciommo, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. I'll start with Tito. Tito, you have a great personal story. You're an inspiration to so many young people, and I know you'll keep that focus, because you have a lot more to give. We always knew where you stood. You were forceful. You pushed me on a lot of issues. Our work together on Ways and Means and Education. You made me a better counselor. You made me open my mind to other things. So I believe that dash that you talked about, you got a lot more to give. And I know that you'll be back in public service again someday as well. I know that. And you'll make a difference like you have here with us the past 6 years? 7 years, right. Sal La Mattina. So you really messed up our plan. You know what I'm talking about. But I met Sal back shortly after I came back from California. We have a very close mutual friend, John McCarthy. And I remember that night because, I was pretty new back to Boston. And we walked out in the pier, and I'm not going to say what we were doing, but we just walked out in the pier, very dark, and we got to know each other. And then over the years, I had a few interactions with them. And then I went to work for the Harbor Side, and I met Lisa and worked with Lisa indirectly through the Maverick City Roots program. And one of the benefits of getting to know Sal and being a brother from another mother is getting to know Lisa and Ayanna, the jewel of his life. It's great that you guys are my friends too now. I really appreciate it. I want to thank you just for being a close friend. I'm going to steal when I'll give, all gain. That's going to be mine now. I also want to recognize that, your words of wisdom, you have many nicknames, Sal, Salvi, Mr. Magoo. Well, I had a new one, the Sali Lama, okay? Because you are a wise guy, and in many ways. So it's not, we're going to be close friends. One thing we always found out about, what we found out about each other since we've been working together is we do have such a similar background. And I had to put on 40 pounds just to distinguish me from you, because many years when I first got elected, I would be walking in downtown and somebody would come up to me, as you know what happens to all of us. Hey, how you doing? And then they start talking to you about an issue, and I'm like, I don't know this person. I don't know what they're talking about. Then it's something about East Boston North End. Oh, you think I'm Sal La Mattina. So thanks for the wait. I love you. Working with you has been solid gold, but knowing you and being a friend is pure platinum. Thanks, my friend.
Thank you, Councilor Ciommo. Councilor Campbell, you have the floor.
I think we're going to go back around.
I just want to acknowledge the great work of Michelle Wu. You won't be the president, but I have a feeling that we may be calling you Mrs. President, Madam President, sometime in the future, maybe not even in this body. I want to express my appreciation for your work with the small businesses, with the CPA, and your support of me in this last election. It was very, very appreciated from me and my campaign. So thank you, and keep up the great work.
Thanks, Mark. Now, Councilor Campbell.
Take two. I'm going to start with Councilor Jackson. We didn't always see eye to eye. Whether me as a candidate or starting here, sometimes it was some hard conversations. But every time I spoke with you, every time I engage with you, I see you as a member of my family. I think about my brothers. I think about my older brother in particular, who knows you very well. And I think about the issues that we have to continue to talk about when it comes to men in the city of Boston, but particularly men of color. And I want you to know that I value your passion for the issues, the work that you have done behind the scenes and on the ground, particularly for men of color, whether it's conversations in their living rooms, at the local bar or restaurant, to uplift them, to make them feel as though they are part of this great city and frankly, important to this city. I want you to know that your run for mayor has left an imprint on me to talk about the issues that matter and frankly to push not just the administration and the mayor and certain departments, but this body to talk about those very issues that not only matter to communities of color, District 4, District 7, but frankly that should matter to the entire city of Boston. I look forward to staying in contact, not just on the issues, but frankly on all the things that you care about. I know that you'll do great things in the future, and if I can be supportive in any way, please don't hesitate to reach out. And thank you for being fearless. It's not going to be an easy task taking over this new position. And I want you to know that I hear you when you say that we do have power and this body has power and we can do incredible things when we work together. So thank you for being candid and straight with me. Thank you for all that you've done for the city, not just as a public servant, but even before you were a public servant in this elected capacity, but as a red shirt for the work you did with the state with Governor Patrick and for the work that you do in the community every single day. There are a lot of stories that we often don't hear about, and Councilor Pressley, you did share that story once before. I remember you talking about him coming to see your mom. But there are more stories like that that I've heard, even as a candidate, talking with folks in your district about how you were present, whether it's in Orchard Gardens or anywhere else, working with families day in and day out during their most difficult times, and truly being a listening ear. And sometimes our families need that. They don't necessarily want you to take any action, they just simply want us to listen. So thank you for being a great listener. Thank you for highlighting the issues that this body, I hope, will continue to tackle and this city will continue to tackle. And thank you for always just being encouraging for me as I move forward in this position and as an elected. So thank you very much. Councilor LaMattina. Oh, God. What folks don't know is that I wouldn't be council president if it weren't for Sal LaMattina. I wouldn't be going into this role if it weren't for him. He was one of the first people I talked to when I was thinking about running and putting my hat in the race. And his simple response when I said, "Do you think I should do it?" was yes, in all caps. you have always continued, and you continue to see things in me that I may not see in myself. And from day one, you have been a mentor, a friend. You've come into my office and simply offered to be helpful. As a new counselor, I didn't know much of anything. And you've made sure that I was not just connected to people in the building who could get things done around constituent services, but that I felt welcomed, that I had a great transition, and that I felt as though I could do the job and be great at it. I want to thank you for encouraging me to not only be better, but frankly to be and do bigger. And to take leaps of faith when it comes to this work. So thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you to your family for lending you out to us for all these years. Thank you, ladies, for your support. You're an incredible human being, and there are a lot of things, and this is true for every counselor and everyone who works in the city of Boston. There are a lot of things that happen behind the scenes that don't get any attention whatsoever, where we are coming to one another, talking with one another, engaging on the issues in a meaningful way, and growing as human beings as a result of those conversations and those interactions. So thank you for believing in me. Thank you for being supportive and encouraging. Thank you to your team as well. You guys sit next door, and they have been incredibly helpful to my staff, and my staff can go to them anytime and ask about anything and feel as though, frankly, they're not stupid or anything, but that they really are capable and can do this work. And my team has never worked in government before. So your team has been incredible, an incredible resource. So thank you, and thank you to your team as well. I look forward to staying connected, coming back to Eastie. You know, I went to the Bradley. I go by that school, and it brings back a ton of memories. So thank you. I'll see you soon. But thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm going to wait for my comments for you because I think I got to get it together here. But thank you, Councilor Jackson. Thank you, Councilor Lamartina, for your work. And I look forward to staying connected and working on the tough issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Campbell. Councilor Baker, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure serving with both of you. I live my life by the golden rule. How somebody presents themselves to me is how I present to them. The two of you have been really, really good to me. Learned from both of you. How fortunate are we all to have each other, to be able to be in the positions that we're in. You know, when I first got elected, I was on the other side of the administration, and people will always say, have fun with the job. The job wasn't fun. For me, it wasn't. But I look at you, Tito, you always had fun. You always had the smile on your face. That's something that I would strive for. I'm starting to have fun now. But I appreciate your passion for your neighborhood. It's the district councilors. We all have the passion for the neighborhood. And the two of you talked about, your speeches were similar in the fact that you talked about your mentors. You talked about your family. You talked about your neighborhood, your people around you that helped you to become who you were. And I remember you telling a story, Tito telling your story up here, opening your heart up to us. And Sal, you telling a story about your cousin getting murdered outside of his house. Those are difficult stories to tell, but we're in a public light, and to be able to tell those stories, to be able to have the fortitude to be able to open yourself up to people. When you're campaigning, it's so hard, and you guys know, you go into places where you know people don't like you. It's almost like you walk into the room naked or something. You guys go into those different places. I've seen you, I've watched you all go into those rooms where you might not have all supporters, but you're comfortable in the rooms because you're comfortable in yourself and you're comfortable in the work that you do. Tito, you know that the people that say that this is a weak body or whatever, your people know, and Sal, your people know that this is not a weak body. The jobs that we do, we're respected, and we are It's the people that are in our communities. It doesn't matter to either one of you, I know, what a reporter may say or what somebody on social media might say. It's that older woman that you helped get her sidewalk shoveled, or the guy that you helped to get the job. That's what we do this work for. And we're in positions to help people, help the city every day. We are in such a great, great city. And like you talk about a lot, Tito, and I know your neighborhoods. My neighborhoods, maybe not as tough as yours, but I got some tough neighborhoods. You know, it's incumbent on us to make sure that our neighborhoods get better. And when they get better, when they maybe look better, we have to make sure that the people that are within our neighborhoods, and you do this all the time, and I know you do this all the time, the people that are in our neighborhoods, that they're sharing in all that. One time I had said, Sal, at the meeting, at the casino meeting, I said, when I grow up, I want to be Sal Lamontina. I think I might have offended you. I'm sorry if I did, but I meant it. I meant it because my neighborhood was similar to yours in the sense where we're dying for the development. We're looking for a fresh coat of paint on Dot Ave. And I watched you and the way you were able to leverage your relationships with the administration. It's libraries, it's parks, it's all those things that are amenities and are you know, those are things that make neighborhoods good. And you did all those things for your neighborhood. And Tito, the work that you do for the young people in Boston, and those young people, hopefully we're going to be able to make sure that they have opportunities, that the schools get better, that we are able to train our young people. We're getting ready to go into a whole new life. We don't even know what life is going to look like in 10 years. We don't know what the jobs are going to be, for one. So we're going to have to make sure as counselors, and you guys are going to still be doing the work. I know that dash is going to get bigger. We keep saying that. Your dash is going to get a lot bigger. As people that are leaving and have the experience, you're going to be able to help us as a city make sure that when these new jobs are coming, that we're able to provide training for those kids, for those young men, young women, even older men and older women. So I grew up in a family of love. We showed love. I love you guys. You guys are a joy to work with. And you both talked about how fortunate we are to be here in this room, to be able to be in the city of Boston and make, as decision makers for the city of Boston, when we're going into a time, it's a scary time. It's a scary time. But I think that the city of Boston, regardless of what's happening all around the country, the city of Boston is a much better place because of leadership like you, Tito Jackson, and you, Sal Lamontina. I consider you both friends. I'm going to try and have more fun in the job. And you, nothing bothers you. How does that happen? That's what I want. I want to have more fun like Tito Jackson, and I want things to roll off my back, to either roll off your back. But I appreciate you both, and I consider you both friends. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Baker. Councilor Flaherty, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to start with, I guess well, we're actually almost like roommates. This is like roommates now, but had the pleasure to sit next to Tito and obviously enjoyed my time sitting with him, also being in the Soda and Coffee Club, which we've kind of slacked off the last few weeks. And also, you know, oftentimes we'd be sitting here, we'd be kibitzing about the rules, and he knows I'm a stickler for the rules. He'd be asking me, what rule can you do this, what can you rule do that? So sorry I had to invoke 33 on your way out the door. My apologies, but love you very much, not personal. But want to talk about his work. It's been mentioned here, his work on behalf of our schools, the BPS. We're a better school district. The children of Boston are better because of his service. His work around my brother's keeper, I had a front row seat watching him with that. His role with, you know, sort of state of black and brown men and boys, took a leadership role in that. And then just kids in general, kids across the city, mine in particular. So I'll judge Tito on and he gets rated by my children. And you think about all the colleagues that I've served with as the longest serving member of the council, they ask about Tito the most. Mayella in particular, but how's Tito? Say hello to Tito for me. Is Tito doing his turkey fries? Is Tito doing the Thanksgiving Day? constantly sort of, or they'll see him on TV, and they'll ask questions like, well, I just saw Tito on TV, what's he doing? So his sense of connection with the youth of Boston transcends all of Boston's neighborhoods. And so when I get that question from my children, or when my children want to go and participate in his events, we would go. We would go as a family to support him, but also because they wanted to be there to support the efforts and the initiative that he was leading. So I'm going to miss sort of the coffee and soda conversations that we've had here. He knows how much I care about him and his work. He also knows that he can count on me moving forward if there's anything I can do for him or his staff and family. So best of luck with all future endeavors. Love you, pal. Sal, before I forget, my Aunt Ellie is a huge fan. She had worked with you for many years and always thought you were a consummate professional and a perfect gentleman. And so from her, she wishes that she could be here, but unfortunately she's not able to attend today. So best wishes on behalf of my Aunt Ellie. Your institutional knowledge of where the city has been and where we're going is invaluable. It's been tremendous for this body, but just in general, having a conversation with you about things that had happened in the past. He's actually older than he looks. I don't want to sort of out his age, but he has had experiences and he has lived through the ups and downs, the brights and the darks of Boston that if folks don't know, should take the opportunity to kind of pick his brain, because he was sort of part and parcel working as a fabric of the city and the neighborhoods during those times. Mentioned by Frankie, stickler to detail on our small businesses, on our community health centers, on our community centers, on our local police and our local fire stations, and what they mean to our neighborhoods. And he's a guy that kind of kept it simple. I met him before coming to the Boston City Council. I met him at a gym. He worked, I think at the time, was maybe the transportation department. And I, believe it or not, just in my work doing sort of community and civic stuff, I had some transportation-related issues, and he couldn't wait to help. And Sal's a guy that just wants to help people. Doesn't look for the credit, doesn't want to see his name up on a banner or a sign, just kind of goes about, kind of like, I guess, Simon and Cyrene, sort of service in silence. Just being that helpful person, giving you a helpful ear, lending you a helpful hand, without much ado about anything other than he just feels that it's the right thing to do. And that goes right to your core, that goes right to your character. And it's my hope, I actually, believe it or not, in his district, I have a burger, I have a sandwich, and I have a plate actually named after me. And to this day, it kind of still irks him, the fact that in his district, how does that happen? In his district, I have some of my biggest and best supporters who all love Sal. And you think about the people in his district and how fond they are of him. It's because of who he is. And how not just in East Boston, but in his district, how the people of Charlestown have come to really love Sal. And it was mentioned earlier, he's sort of on this retirement tour, if you will. Each and every one of those neighborhoods are stepping up and hosting events. The North End is another one, and even some of the downtown waterfront area. It's the impact that you've had because you run out the ground ball, you pay attention to detail, you return phone calls, and in your own way, you have the ability to help people. And so that's going to be missed on this body, but it's going to be missed in the city. And so it's our hope that your successes and newest colleague coming in, Councilor Ed Flynn, will be able to sort of pick up on what it means to be an effective city councilor. It's the advocacy that we saw day in and day out, and that enthusiasm and that excitement from Councilor Jackson, and it's also sort of that steady hand, that just sort of a worker bee, and just getting the job done, which is obviously is really reflective in your sweat equity and your work ethic, Councilor Lamontina. So I'm going to miss you both, love you both, and again, same applies to you, Sal. Anything I can do to be helpful to you, your family, constituents, because if it happened to me, I've been in this situation. You can always run again, by the way. You can always come back, all right? So for those that think that it's kindly over, you can actually decide to run again. So, true story. So I'm not sure your family may want to hear that, but mine didn't either, but so you can always come back. But at the end of the day, like when you're city council, like the job doesn't, he's a younger guy, you're probably maybe looking to maybe spend some time and retire. Your phone's still going to ring. Your phone is still going to ring. You're going to be sort of that counselor of record because you've established a relationship in your community, with your family, with your friends, with your neighbors. They're going to stop you on the street. And you're not going to be able to say, I'm not a city councilor anymore, call my successor. It's just not in your nature. It's not in your nature either. Both of you are going to turn around and you're going to do what I do. You're going to grab the pad of paper and take the name and number down, and you're going to call one of us. You're going to call your colleagues, and so we want to continue to be here for you. So make sure that you take the name and number, spell it right, and get the address, get the nature of the problem, as your citywide city council, I'm happy to pick up that slack and run out the ground ball. But you have all of your colleagues here that will be willing to do that for you. So you can kind of still stay engaged, you can still stay out there, you can still be problem solvers and still be people that generally have the ability to help people. You both have the ability to help people, so take advantage of it. And it doesn't end when you walk out the door here on December 31st. It's going to continue to stay with you. You're not going to have the ability to say that, oh, you can't do that anymore, or I'm not there anymore. You have all of your colleagues to lean on to be able to do it for you. So with that, I want to wish you the very Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year to you and your families. Best of luck in your future endeavors.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike.
So I get to add my 2 cents before inviting you both up to receive a little something from all of us. I'll start with Tito because we go way back. And I don't even know if, you may not even remember this, Tito, but the first time that I really saw you in action was years and years ago. I had just started to get active with the local ward committee, and so found myself at one of Governor Patrick's events at Merengue. And you were there. I had brought along my sister Tori because I was raising her, et cetera. She was a teenager. I think she was in middle school then. And the room was packed, and Governor Patrick was late. Later, people started to trickle out. And Tori's looking at me like, why am I here in the first place? I was like, okay, we're going to go. So we're almost, I can see the door. We're almost stepping out. Tito comes up to us and said, hey, can you just stay a little longer? I was like, she's got to go. She's got school, et cetera. He ignores me, looks at her, said, young lady, what will it take to get you to stay here for a little longer? The governor's almost here. And she looks right back at him and says, mango smoothie. Tito did not bat an eye. He went right to the back, came right back out with a mango smoothie. Tori was so thrilled that she won, that, the important person in the room came up to her, talked to her, took care of her. I think that interaction has been characteristic of how you, one, think about young people as truly having value and a stake and needing to be there in those rooms that matter, and also figuring out what it takes to make someone feel like they're part of an event, a community, a situation. So I've always kind of had that in the back of my head. And it's been true of, everybody said it already. You're the moral compass of the council. The time when you get up and speak on issues, we all take a deep breath because what you're saying is real, and it is reflecting the voices of people who will never get a chance to be here and speak for themselves in front of us. So I want to thank you for always, always remembering people who may not have a voice, may not know that these conversations are occurring about things that will impact them directly. You have kept residents in Boston and beyond right at the forefront of what we talk about in these rooms, and you always make sure that the vulnerable among us, those with potential to be more than our institutional barriers let them right now, see that potential for themselves and are put on a path towards that. Sal, since I started on the council, I have understood exactly why you're beloved across your entire district and the city. I felt like you adopted me as a little sister from day one. You've been there on any personal or professional issue, and that fierce love that you have for your district and your job, you apply to your relationships with every person, no matter what walk of life they come from. And it reflects the love that Lisa and Liana have for you and that you have for them. And I have loved hearing you stand up and speak on the council floor about how everyone needs to have a stake, and particularly those immigrant residents who are not in power and do not have a way to advocate, who are in fear and living in the shadows. You've always been there for those constituents. You've always been there for us as well. I loved getting to travel with you a little bit, and as we were learning about all these climate change and adaptation and resiliency initiatives in Europe, Sal was busy saying, we would talk about district energy or these big things that would cost a lot of money. Sal got it, but then he would look where the tour guides were not pointing. He would look at that little patch in the ground that was a garden that someone had installed to make sure that water that was dripping down wouldn't then flow back under their house and cause leaks. And he said, that's what we need to take back to Boston. That's what we can get done now. And I love being there by you kind of taking notes of how you were seeing things and what you were going to bring back and get done right away. And I will never forget getting to march next to you in this latest Columbus Day Parade, as you got to remember all of the ways that the city has changed, how proud you are of those changes, and how proud you've been to be part of them. You have both shaped so much of Boston through your lives and being willing to share those with the public. And you've done this work, not just in this room with legislative work and ordinances and hearing orders and all that, but with events that lift up your community, that are open to everyone. So we better still be able to keep coming to Eastie Pride Day and the turkey fry and all of that. I want to add my voice and say I love you both. We'll miss you, and know that we'll take those phone calls. Call Michael Flaherty first, but add me to the list after that. But thank you both. So I'd like to invite up Tito Jackson and Sal Lamatina for something from the council. So these are Boston Bean Pots signed by the entire council and our clerk. And if everyone could come up, we can take a picture together.
Oh, I always wanted one of these.
And while everyone's coming up, I actually didn't make a statement about Michelle. And I want to thank Michelle for being an amazing leader and bringing us together and using innovation, because we're not all allowed to speak to each other at one time because of our friends at the state. And the lunches made a difference. It really brought people together. You provided access for people physically here, but you provided figurative access, and you took on issues that matter. And I also want to challenge my brothers on the council. We have an amazing group of women leaders who are coming in, and it's historic.
Yes.
But you know what? That guys have to step up and lead on all of these issues too. It can't only be women who are doing women's issues and inclusive issues. We as men have to step up and challenge each other, challenge systems that have left people out, and make sure that we walk side by side with women in these roles. And it feels damn good, sorry, I'm cursing in front of kids, but if that I think this is the first time we're gonna have back-to-back presidents who are women on this council, and that's a wonderful thing. It's a great day in the city of Boston.
Thank you, Tito. We gotta do the paparazzi thing.
Thanks, Fred.
This is awesome.
This is like the coolest thing.
They also, if you want them, they have like the beans that you can actually make inside. But.
Oh, do they?
No, that's all. We'll wait till we're off the council.
Yeah.
We'll wait.
So, and just as we wrap up, I just want to take a few more minutes to say thank you. Thank you first to all the counselors for letting me serve in this way and helping to manage the procedures of our meetings and troubleshoot and all that. It's truly been an honor. Thank you so much to my own staff. They have taken on so much. Dave, Sophia, Andrea, Ronnie, Dan, Kevin. I want to thank Central staff, who are just an incredible group of people who work so hard. But truly, I've gotten to get a little extra glimpse into every one of you and how you work, how much you care for the job. I feel so, so, so lucky to have been able to do this. We have passed ordinances that have truly made a difference around income inequality, climate change, racial equity, all of the issues that we care about. And we've also used this chamber as a platform for residents. I think more than ever, people across the city feel like this is their council, feel like this is somewhere they can come and be heard. We have literally reshaped this space together to be open for everyone. So thank you. And to Councilor Campbell, who I'm so excited will be up here very shortly. You're going to do an amazing job. You have the heart for it, you have the brains for it, and you have all of our support in doing that. So we're lucky to have you step up and serve, and looking forward to being there every step along the way. Really looking forward to being sort of a backseat driver. I can criticize and comment and all of that. It'll be all on you and your staff. And again, I'm always here. My staff is always here, but we're so lucky to have you stepping in. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so Councilor Campbell, you have the floor.
I don't know about others, but I want to say a few words about you, Madam President. And I'll be brief, but you are an incredible human being. I thank Sal, but I also have to thank you for your leadership and for also encouraging me to jump into the race and to have conversations with each of my colleagues and to put forth ideas about what I wanted to bring to the presidency. But thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your passion. Sometimes, it's difficult to navigate the challenges between certain offices or committees, and you did it with such grace. We are blessed as a city to have you as a public servant. You could be doing other things, but you have chosen to serve your community, and you've done such a fantastic job navigating so many different things. And once again, things that we often don't see and that are often sometimes could be ugly. You've stood up on issues and challenged us to be better counselors, the administration to do better, the departments to serve better. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And one other thing I want to add is you've been a great example of what it means to be a mother, and clearly what it means to be pregnant and to have a child while doing this work. It is possible. So thank you for your leadership in that regard as well. I look forward to continued partnership and also continuing to do the work through some of your core values around accessibility and transparency. And thank you to my colleagues for having the confidence in me to serve in this new role. And thank you to all of your staff members as well. This will be a joint effort. This will be, I think, just an amazing opportunity for all of us to really be able to highlight the important work that we do every single day for the residents in the city of Boston. I look forward to working with my colleagues, to partner with you in the work. I look forward to working with the clerk and the clerk's office, as well as central staff. So thank you, and thank you again, Madam President, for your leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Campbell. Okay, anyone else wishing to comment or speak? We're good? Good. Then we do need to ratify the consent agenda and the 8 late filed matters which were added absent objection. Chair moves adoption of the consent agenda. All in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Consent agenda is adopted. And now if all guests and councilors could please rise. Today, the Boston City Council will adjourn our meeting in memory of the following individuals. For Councilor Flaherty, Raymond E. Hannigan, Robert Paul Volasevich, Sr. For Councilor LaMattina, Gerald Partee. For Councilor O'Malley, Constance McKiernan. And on behalf of all councilors, Edward Perry King, Katie King's father. A moment of silence, please. Thank you. Chair moves that when the council adjourns today, we do so in memory of the aforementioned individuals, and we will meet again at the call of the chair, not until the new year. All in favor of adjournment, please say aye. Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Council is adjourned.